How you doing, Frank?
I just lost my pen.
Well, it's really cold back at town.
Oh, where?
Are you here? Okay.
Oh, sorry about that.
The Board of Commission. It's not on.
Oh, I apologize. Yeah, I didn't even realize it is.
The board, it's not on.
It's not on.
Teresa? I don't think this is on. Thank you. The Board of Commissioners is the governing body of Clatsop County, all county service districts for which this body so acts, and as the Clatsop County Local Contract Review Board is now meeting in regular session. Please stand for the flag salute.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we have the roll call, please?
Present. Present.
Present?
Present.
Here.
We now have a presentation and, oh, sorry, yes, agenda approval.
So move.
Second.
Okay, so, let's see.
All those in favor?
So the agenda approval.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to pull on something from the consent calendar.
Okay. Which item?
I wanted to pull the county clerk to prepare a voter's pamphlet for regular elections.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
6C.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to pull that.
And move that to the business agenda?
7A. Yeah.
Yes, 7A. Okay.
So, Madam Chair, I move to adopt the agenda as amended.
Thank you.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda with pulling item 6C and moving it to 7A. Could we have a vote by the board, for the clerk? Call the vote. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
The ayes have it, and the agenda is amended and approved.
Thank you for calling Coons, Blasquez and Associates. If you have reached this message during regular business
Now we have a presentation, and it'll be by phone because of the roads.
Our auditors, Coons, Purdue, and Velasquez, they travel from Albany, and since we were unclear what the Highway 26 was going to be like, we said that it would be fine if she called in. And so Teresa is going to be reaching her now. Debbie Velasquez is our auditor, and she encourages you to ask any questions once she's done presenting.
Thank you for calling Coons, Blasquez and Associates. If you have reached this message during regular business hours, we are currently assisting other clients. If you know your party's extension, you may dial it now. You are being transferred to Debbie Blasquez.
Coons, Blasquez and Associates.
Hi, Debbie. This is Monica with Clatsop County, and I have the Board of Commissioners here, ready and eagerly waiting to hear your audit presentation.
Because it's so exciting, huh?
It is.
Thank you very much for letting me do this via phone. I appreciate it. The road report was a little scary yesterday when I looked at it. Okay, so in front of you, you should have a packet of 3 items, one of which is the audit report, which is the bound copy. And the other 2 are communication letters, one of which is called the communication with those charged with governance. That's going to be the thicker one. And then there's also one that is just a couple pages, and that is our communication with regards to internal control related matters. And I'm going to start a little bit different this year. I'm going to start with the letter of the communication to those charged with governance. and kind of just talk about what our overall responsibilities are, which are clearly defined on the first page under the area that says our responsibility. And I'll just highlight just in general what those are. The first one is to express an opinion on whether or not the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects with regards to generally accepted accounting policies or principles. The second one is to plan and perform the audit in order to obtain a reasonable rather than an absolute assurance about whether they're free from material misstatements. And that includes considering your internal controls over your financial reporting so that we can design our audit procedures accordingly. And then the last big thing of our responsibility is to communicate any significant matters related to the audit that we might consider to be relevant to your responsibilities in your overseeing the financial process. Okay. The next place I want to go is to the actual report. I'm not going to go through the entire book that you have in front of you. It's 160 pages long, and to go through it page by page would be an inordinate amount of time, and it would probably bore you all to tears. So I do want to just kind of give you some highlighted areas that you might want to take a look at. If you're looking to have a really good overview of the report in general, if you look at what's called the management discussion and analysis, which is on pages 4 through 13, that will give you kind of an overview of the fund accounting, the fund analyticals that we've done in that area that are presented to the users of the financial statement. The other thing I'd like to point out is on the page with the little V for 5 is your certificate of achievement for your excellence in financial reporting, and you also receive something very similar to that for your budget process, and those are something to be quite proud of. The next statement I kind of want to highlight would be on page 15, which is your statement of net position, and on page 17, I think it is, or 16, is your statement of activities. This report is prepared as if you were like a for-profit business. So this is going to encompass all of your assets, including your equipment. It's going to include things that you don't normally see on a monthly basis. It'll break your fund balances out or your net position out a little bit different than you're used to seeing. And then it will also, so if you were, in essence, what this report would show you is if the county for some reason were to go out of business, this would show you all of your assets and liabilities. The ones that you're probably more familiar with looking at are your governmental funds, which you'll see on page 19. Well, actually, they start on page, they start on 17. But on page 19, I want to highlight that your ending fund balance for the entire county is a little over $44 million, and you had an increase of a little bit over $7.9 million. So that goes back to the prudent budgeting that the county has always done. Let's see, what else do I have? You'll also find towards the back, on pages 27 through page 70, you're going to find the notes to the financial statement. Those notes explain everything that is in the preceding pages. So it talks about your accounting policies, it talks about the budget policies and procedures, and those sorts of things. We'll break out your long-term debt and your fixed assets. Then when you get to page 76 through about page 21, you're going to have your budgets to actuals. That's where you can see how you did with regards to your budget, what you had budgeted, and then what you actually spent. And then the last part of the report is all of the analyticals that are required for your CAFR, which is that certificate that you receive. And then it also, there's a single audit report back there because you do receive federal funds. We have to do a single audit as well. And I think I think that's all I really want to go over in the report. If after you've had a chance to look at it, if you have specific questions about anything on the report, I'm happy to answer questions, and Monica can give you my contact information. And you can contact me via email or telephone. I'm always available for that. Let's see. So then the second letter, the thin letter, is the internal communication of matters relating to internal control. We do look at some on a rotating basis. We do go to several different departments and look at their cash handling procedures. I think this year we went to animal control. We went to the sheriff's office. I know we did Westport Sewer, and we revisited the fairgrounds because of a couple things that we had found in the previous year. And then this year they were very much improved, and we were glad to see the cash handling procedures had been updated and strengthened. The only thing in the internal control letter has to do with an OMS issue with the state highway funds. I know that there's been, it's already been addressed and there's a plan in place, but there was a issue of the funds not having been spent as required, and then there hadn't really been any tracking of you're allowed 10 years to accumulate and spend those funds, and there hadn't been a tracking process, so we weren't really sure when that first 10-year period started. But that's all been, as far as I know, been taken care of and was being addressed while we were there for the audit. I think, and the last thing I'd like to just say is I'd like to congratulate you on your rating for your bond. It goes to say a lot about the county and how they manage their budget, how you have had clean audits or an unqualified opinion on your audits, and you have really great reserves. So that's really something to be quite proud of. You don't see too many bonds that get out there with that high of a rating.
Here, here.
So, and that's all I have. Unless you have some specific questions, or if you just want to wait and email me, I'm happy to do it either way.
Any questions? Doesn't appear we have any questions, Debbie, so I thank you very much for taking the time to walk us through some of this, and if there are any, we'll be sure to follow up with you.
That sounds perfect.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
You too.
I'd like to make a comment that I think we can take great pride in our staff and extend our appreciation for excellence in our accounting and budgeting process. This is something that would be envied by many counties, I believe. So, thank you.
Thanks.
Now it's time for business from the public. Oh, sorry, second quarterly financials. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. So I'm going to go through this rather quickly. A lot of it is similar information, so if I'm going too quick, please feel free to slow me down and ask any questions that you might have. This is the second quarter financials. The second quarter ended December 31st, but just with the full agenda loads, this is the first opportunity we've had to kind of get this on here. So overall, most fund expenditures continue to be generally in line with the budgeted expectations. We continue to monitor where additional costs are being incurred and any unforeseen circumstances, taking those into consideration and seeing where we might be able to realize savings rather than taking from contingencies. And at the end of the second quarter, we were 95% collected in our current year property taxes of the amount that was budgeted. This slide here represents the revenues collections for all funds through the second quarter, and this excludes beginning balances and transfers from the general fund. So as you can see, we are 66.8% collected. Some of this has a lot to do with that 95% collected in property taxes, as well as our timber revenues coming in strong in those first two quarters. This next slide is reflective of the general fund only, and again, it excludes the beginning balances, and a large part of this is, again, because of the general fund's portion of the timber revenues that had already been collected. In addition, we are seeing a little bit less in our overall collections over last year, and part of that is because we've had the previous quarter, there was, sorry, don't read my notes very well. That's what happens when I get ahead of myself. The audited beginning balance that's not reflected in here, that rolled from the 17-18 fiscal year, is 11.7 million. And as you can see in the bottom part of this slide, the general fund revenue is 73% collected through the second quarter. This higher percentage collected continues to be in large part due to the increased property taxes, approximately $400,000 over the previous fiscal year, and then other revenue tax collections. The room tax collected is at approximately 80%, which is higher than the previous year. This does not include the 1% county-wide tax collected.
Do we have,
Sorry.
you know, we had talked about that, I don't know if it was Airbnb or whatever. Has there been any movement on that? You know what I'm talking about?
In regards to the way that they're reporting what they are paying to the county,
Right.
To my knowledge, no, there hasn't been any changes on that.
Okay, thank you.
I think it was Expedia, if I recall.
Yeah, it was some online.
Yeah, VRBO.
Sorry, BRBO. Thank you for that clarification.
So this slide here represents the major revenue sources for the general fund. Property taxes collected, again, is at 95%. This does not reflect any SIP or prior year collections. The timber revenues collected represents both the portion that remains in the general fund as well as the amount that transfers to the special projects. So in the first quarter, we met the general fund portion, and so now in special projects, as of the end of the second quarter, we've transferred 46% of the amount budgeted, or $641,950. This slide here is showing the general fund payroll costs through the second quarter. Again, we're at approximately the 50% mark, which is where we should be for the general fund, well, for all funds at this point. The individual org units within each, the individual amounts within each org unit might vary slightly, but overall, they're at the 50% mark. The personnel cost increase over the past fiscal years is in large part due to the additional FTE that we've increased, as well as the negotiated COLAs and increased COLA and PERS costs, or healthcare and PERS costs.
Let me just
Sorry.
slow you up when you're talking about PERS.
Yeah.
Because that is that unfunded actuarial liability is such a concern, I hope that you'll be presenting us with some information about that, looking to project into the future what we're looking at. I think that would be extremely helpful.
Yeah. So this slide here represents all the general fund org units, and like I said, most of them are at that 50% mark. Some of them, like you can see, the dues and special assessments is well above the 50% mark, and that is because that dues and special assessments has a lot of one-time payments that come out of it, one of which $500,000 is the amount that we received for the payments to the fishermen's. And so those payments were made, and so those amounts are reflected there and aren't going to be paid out again. So they'll still come within budget, even though right now they're exceeding that 50% margin. This is the Board of Commissioners budget. As you can see right now, we made a budget adjustment, so the total budget is $100,260. At this time, the budget is 43% expended. There was a $7,000 budget adjustment made in September, and this is to reflect the mediation services that are going to be happening. The first payment of those mediation services didn't get paid until January, but the budget adjustment was made prior to that.
What category would that come under? Education and training, or?
Yeah, that's where I budgeted it. It's actually, we added another line item to kind of keep it separate from education and training. So that's why the line item right now shows 11,000, but it's actually getting paid out of contractual services. So we've added a line item since I've done this report to make that payment, and so there will be a new line item on here called contractual services.
Thank you.
To kind of keep the education piece separate. This slide represents a breakdown by commissioner for expenses in education and training, meals, mileage, rental cars, and fuel charges, as well as lodging. The total amount budgeted in these line items combined is $19,000, and through the end of the second quarter, $7,472 has been spent, 39% of the budgeted amount. And I just kind of put a new piece on here to just kind of show the types of meetings that are being attended, so that way people know the work that's being done, the citizens know. This next slide is for the Public Health Department and their org units. As you can see, the household hazardous waste facility has increased significantly compared to the last several years that I've been showing this presentation. So work is underway. We are currently working with the City of Astoria to kind of hammer out some final details in the permitting process. And once that is completed, construction should be relatively quick, and we're still hoping for a late spring opening of the facility.
So will we be having a presentation? I know we had talked about that.
Yes, I believe that is scheduled for the first meeting in March. Yeah, so hopefully it'll be close to completion. No, because that's now sooner than I'm thinking. So hopefully they'll have some sort of structure up and show pictures of that. So, and again, this is being paid for by user fees. This slide is for the roads department. Again, everything is relatively in line with the 50% margin, except for the road district. As funds come in, they get transferred for the road maintenance and construction and road admin and support. They will only budget the total amount transferred, so even if they get more than what was budgeted, that will just roll over into next year's beginning fund balance. The equipment replacement, they have 3 pieces of equipment that they have ordered, and the receipt of those pieces of equipment have happened in the third quarter, so you'll see that one go up as well at the next show. Oops. And this last one is for all the other org units. Again, you have some that are well below. A lot of this has to do with budgeted contingencies. And then you see some that are above that 50% mark. And again, that's because of one-time payments. Video lottery is one of those. As the funds become available, we make payments to Cedar, as well as the Arts Council has some costs that come out of there. And then funds are then also transferred to the planning department for the economic development work that they do. The mental health one is above the 50%, and that is, there will be budget adjustments coming before you. The state, this is one particular org unit that sees a lot of fluctuation, whether, additional money is found or additional services that they want to have provided. And so that's an org unit that you frequently see budget adjustments come before you, and so there will be more in the coming months. So So just takeaways, as stated, everything overall is where it should be with it at the end of the second quarter. Some instances, due to those unforeseen circumstances, a budget adjustment may be required, and those will be coming before you in the coming months. Again, we're trying to see where we can realize savings. Some instances, since the county manager position is vacant, there is some savings realized there. So if there is a budget adjustment that has to be made, rather than taking from contingency, we would be able to take from that org unit and adjust the appropriation authority that way. Staff is now underway with the 1920 budget process, and so by the end of this week, they will be submitting their current year projections. So that gives us an idea of what our beginning fund balance would look like for next year, and then at the end of the month, March 1st, they'll be submitting their requested budgets. And so when they're doing their budget planning, all of them take into consideration the board policy, which is, should a general fund supported department experience savings during the year, to the extent possible, that those savings should not be spent and instead used to augment the fund balance. So I just wanted to let you know that they all take those policies to heart. Are there any questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Now it's time for business from the public. This is an opportunity for anyone to give a 3-minute presentation about any item on the agenda except public hearings, or any topic of county concern that is not on the agenda. People wishing to speak during business from the public must fill out and sign a public comment sign-in card. So you will have 3 minutes. First, and please state your name and address. First one is, the last name I believe is Sager? Sager? I'm sorry, I can't quite. Okay, please come up. You can sit here and speak, bring that little black thing close to you. Yeah.
The reason I'm speaking tonight is I live in an apartment.
I'm sorry, could you state your name and address?
Yes, Barton Sagar.
Barton, okay.
Anything? Okay, the reason I'm here is I'm living in an apartment in Astoria that is going to have the county-wide installation of so-called smart meters. I live in an apartment that has, I think it is 27 meters on the other side of the wall of my apartment. And as I walk out the door, it's about maybe 9 feet away from the door. And the radiation from one of these is significant according to some very important studies that have been done. I'm just curious what I can do about that. I'm going to have to either move, or I don't know what to do, actually. I'm in a dilemma about that. But these meters, I went to a meeting last night with several of the people that are here that were talking about the detrimental effects of these meters. And anyway, I don't know I don't know a lot about what the county might be doing with the power company's installation of these meters. But anyway, I just want to bring that up. I'm a person that's being very affected by this, and I didn't even realize it until last night about how much I'm being affected, or will be affected.
Thank you. Next, we have Karen Black.
Is it okay if I sit?
Yes, of course, please.
I'm older, I get to do some of those things, right?
That's why there's chairs there
Yeah, that's what I thought.
for everyone.
Can you hear me? Okay, my name is Karen Black. I live at 91868 Youngs River Road, Astoria. Is that what you needed? Okay. Pacific Power states, if you do not wish to upgrade to a smart meter, there is an opt-out available for a monthly fee. The fee covers the cost of manually reading the meter. Really? Let's do the math. Example 1. How many people in our county will opt out? Let's use a conservative number of 1%. Using census data, current number of households in the county is about 16,844. 1% of that would be 168 households. At $36 a month is $6,048 a month in fees paid to Pacific Power. How many meters can a meter reader check per day? 200 to 700, depending on the area population density, averaging about 450 to 500 nationally. How many days would it take for one meter reader to check out the 1% sample? 168 households, lowest density, 200 meters per day, about 1 day. Result, Pacific Power is saying it costs them $6,048 monthly for one part-time employee who works 1 day per month. Example 2, let's try a different rate, how about 10%? 1,684 households, $36 a month, $60,624 per month to Pacific Power. Since there are more meters, some will be closer together, so we can use a little bit more conservative estimate of 300 meters a day, still well below average. 1,684 meters, 300 a day, 5.61 days, or just over a week. Result, according to Pacific Power, one part-time employee working just over 1 week per month costs them $60,624 per month. They are going to have a lot of applicants. One last example, this is from the opposite this time. What would it cost for the 1,684 meters in the 10% sample to be read? Full-time meter reading pays around $40,000 to $60,000 annually. So using the average of 50, we get $24 an hour. 6 days work, 8 hours a day, $24 an hour is $1,152 a month. Dividing that, $1,152, among our 1,684 households leaves each customer responsible for 68 cents per month. Conclusion, Pacific Power's $36 per month opt-out fee is an extortionary disincentive allowed by the Oregon Public Utilities Commission in direct defiance of their mission and depriving county residents of any real choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ken Potter.
Hi, I'm Ken Potter. I live at 131 Ross Lane in Cannon Beach. And I have a lot of unanswered questions about the whole smart meter process. The investment of the power companies in these meters, being several $100s a unit, has got to be phenomenal. The amount of labor and time to install all these meters is absolutely incredible. And they're going to last maybe 20% as long as the previous types of meters. The lifespan is only about 5 years. So we have to ask why in the world they want to make this tremendous change. And they're pushing it really fast, they're pushing it hard, and basically the consumer has no alternative. And so we have to wonder what's really going on. One question would be, are these meters better at detecting all of the small loads? Because so many of our devices now have very low power draws, and they're essentially invisible to the older meters. Maybe that's their incentive. We don't know. And it's unclear whether they can really identify what devices are being used in the house, and why would they want to know? I doubt that that's really possible, but I don't know what that's all about. But the biggest thing is these meters are making very frequent transmissions at very high energy, and they've constantly played that down, and they're telling us that it's not that high. It's not, yeah. But the energy of these transmissions is really very high. And we want to know, we'd like to know what the real load is of that meter on the line. Even though it's not charged to the customer, it is eventually going to cost the customer. We're all going to pay for it. So it's been estimated that those costs are just the energy costs of the meter alone. Each meter may be $113 a year. So we would all be paying that as just part of our escalating bill. So it's unclear to me whether the meters are taking up bandwidth using cell towers or satellite communications. Nobody seems to be talking about that. So essentially, we're all concerned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mary Beth Cottle.
I'm Mary Beth Cottle, 131 Ross Lane, Cannon Beach. I also have concerns about the smart meter rollout. I think that there has been a lot of pushback in many other areas of the country. California is one place where there has been a lot of litigation about smart meters, and a lot of problems have arisen. My concerns are that the safety of the smart meters, and I'm talking not only about the radiation safety, I don't know if they are a radiation hazard or not, or a fire hazard, I don't know if they are or not, but I do think that the safety needs to stay on the radar because there has been no independent research done to see if these are safe. And I have a serious concern about having the installation be contracted out. I have a house in Idaho where a contractor installed the meters, the upgraded meters, and, well, by golly, they caught on fire. And I'm very lucky that my house did not burn down with my daughter and my grandchildren in it. The power company accepted no responsibility. I am concerned that when these smart meters are installed in our homes, that the contractors will not have any responsibility for anything that happens, and neither will the power company, because that was my experience last time. The other experience, the other concern that I have is safety from malicious hackers. These are Wi-Fi devices. We all know about how hacking takes place these days in all of our Wi-Fi devices, and I have concerns about how safe, how protected these devices are from hackers. The other thing that I have a concern about, and this has been widely reported in the media, is accuracy. The public power companies are saying they're extremely accurate, that there are no glitches, and I'm here to tell you that if this electronic device has no glitches, it's a first in history. People are having bills of over $1,000 a month where they had a fraction of that up until the point of the smart meter. And the public power companies are saying, but the meters are accurate. That is correct. You have to pay it. If I get a bill for over $1,000 for a month of use, it would be ridiculous, because if I added up all of my devices and said that they were turned on 24 hours a day, they wouldn't come to $1,000. It would be 10 times what my highest bill has ever been. So I have concerns about the accuracy, and I'm wondering how this will be addressed by the county, how you will be protecting us. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Christopher Padden? Padden?
My name is Christopher Padden. I live at 91868 Youngs River Road. You all have a copy of my statement this evening, which will include footnotes for all my references for your referral. Economist David Hume once wrote, quote, "There is no such thing as freedom of choice unless there is freedom to refuse," close quote. According to Oregon Revised Statute number 756.04, the Oregon Public Utilities Commission is legally mandated to, quote, "represent the customers of any public utility in all controversies respecting rates, and to protect such customers and the public generally from unjust and unreasonable exactions and practices, and to obtain for them adequate service at fair and reasonable rates," close quote. Instead, they have allowed Pacific Power to charge one of the two highest opt-out fees in the nation. Twice those charged in Florida and Maine, 3 times Massachusetts, New Jersey, and North Carolina, 4 times Michigan, Nevada, and New York, and 6 times more than parts of Maryland, which happens to have the highest median income in the United States. Oregon's median income ranks 27th. Pacific Power's gigantic fee more than doubles the monthly electric rates for many Clatsop residents. Pacific Power claims the opt-out fees are for meter reading. Right. However, based on average meter reading salaries and benefits, the meters read per day, cost for meter reading could easily be covered by less than $2 a month, as Karen Black has so well analyzed. Therefore, the remaining $34 per month per opt-out customer serves only 2 functions. 1, a fine, a penalty, and a huge disincentive against opting out. And 2, for Pacific Core, a couple of $1 million annual profit statewide. Unfortunately, the UPOC sanctioned this extortion. Perhaps the OPUC is math challenged, but perhaps it is law challenged as well. For example, I'm aware of the well-documented adverse effects of radio frequency radiation on humans, animals, and insects and plants, and the potential for inadequately surge-protected smart meters to catch fire. I know that a smart meter on my property could, in the future, cause physical harm to myself, my family, my livestock or bees, my crops or buildings. And I fear that if I do not pay Pacific Power the monthly opt-out fee they're demanding, they will install one of these devices on my home. To compel or induce payment by instilling fear or future harm or damage to property is to commit extortion, a Class B felony according to Oregon state law. However, the OPUC unlawfully approves smart meters without input from the public and without input from independent scientific and legal experts. Instead, the OPUC substituted input from Pacific Power and approved their extortionary opt-out fees. In violation of Oregon state law, the OPUC has unlawfully refused to listen to Oregon citizens on this issue. However, they will respond to county commissioners. Therefore,
Excuse
we
me.
petition the Clatsop County
Gone
Commissioners
over.
to declare an emergency moratorium in Clatsop County on Pacific Power's ability to charge their extortionary opt-out fee until this matter can be properly redressed by the OPUC with full citizen input. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ted Thomas. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Naviker. For the record, my name is Ted Thomas. I live at 398 Atlantic Avenue, Astoria. Tonight I'm talking about the new electric meters that the Pacific Power has sent us a little postcard a few weeks ago about. I'll remind the Commission that in the 1950s, many of us were alive in those days, Atoms for Peace propaganda efforts on behalf of the Eisenhower administration promised electricity too cheap to meter. Later, in the 1990s, Enron promised that deregulation of the electrical power trading industry, something new in the world because of deregulation, would lower rates and costs to the consumer. But instead, they charged California utilities $50 billion and bankrupted the state, leading to the recall election of Gray Davis and a decade of entertaining governorship under Arnold Schwarzenegger. When I was in college, they made me go to a course called Elementary Formal Logic. Did anybody else have to study logic? Because to me, it seems as they're saying it costs more to read an analog meter, and they make an enormous amount of savings, some 30 some odd dollars a month. It follows, logically, that our bills should be reduced by that amount. Because last time I studied law, utility companies they're a natural monopoly. They are a regulated business. They're not allowed to charge punitive fees or coerce their customers into a service that they're not willing to put up with. The dangers of the electrical meters are well documented. The biggest one, of course, to me is the invasion of privacy. These meters essentially have the ability to monitor every time you turn a switch on. Every time you close a circuit, there will be a signal from the rotors in your motors and your hair dryers and your washing machines and your refrigerator compressors that is readable by these meters. And if I were to install a device that were to monitor you that closely on the street outside of your house, I would be charged with a crime. That's called surveillance. It's stalking. I'm only allowed to see what's going on in your house if I pass by and glance from the public easement. And that's, I had a young next door neighbor who she didn't always close her drapes, and I felt bad about that, but it was perfectly legal. This is surveillance, and it sets a very dangerous precedent. Again, I'll ask for you to consider a moratorium until things get sorted out later in the courts, because there's cases being argued. Thank you.
Thank
Ed,
you.
I just want to assure you I was listening even as I was coughing, okay? Just so you know.
Next, we have Pamela Matson McDonald.
Hi there, for something completely different, but on the same thing. Thank you for your commitment to sustainable power, as evidenced by the solar installation of the roof of this building. With over 1 million electric vehicles in the U.S. today and 4 million throughout the world, the electric car will not be disappearing soon. In fact, a dozen affordable electric cars under $29,000 are coming on the market in 2019. Manufacturers Volkswagen, Mitsubishi, Kia, Nissan, General Motors, and Ford, to name a few. Tesla has lowered the price of a Tesla 3 to $38,000, With the 310-mile range, 1-hour charging time, and self-driving option, it's becoming popular with our aging population. And now, used EVs are plentiful on Craigslist, the Tesla and Nissan websites, and other venues. Locally, Lums is selling used Leafs. Ocean Crest is selling the Bolt EV, not to be confused with the Volt, that's Volt, a non-serious attempt at electrification during the Obama administration grants to car companies to develop an electric car. Ford is committed to going all electric by 2021. Look forward to all their trucks, the F-150 and everything being electric, and getting lots of miles for a charge. Electric vehicles have the most impact on the lower and middle class incomes. Filling up a 15-gallon tank at $3.12 a gallon is $47. Charging an electric car at home can cost from $5 to $10. That's a $37 savings, which could go to food, healthcare, education, or housing. Even at a slower charging public station, such as ChargePoint or EVgo, it will cost $4 to $7. Internal combustion engines generate almost half of our greenhouse gas production. I encourage you to continue in your quest for sustainability by setting up county car charging stations, much cheaper to establish than a petroleum gas station and way less dangerous. The insurance will be pittance. They'll provide income to pay off the stations and in future provide income for county programs. To close with a quote from the climate activist 16-year-old Greta Thunberg, the climate crisis has already been solved. We already have all the facts and solutions. All we have to do is wake up and change. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jennifer Ruda? I'm sorry, what was your last name? Ruda, thank you.
Good evening, my name is Jennifer Ruda. I live at 7 Skyline Place in Astoria, Oregon. I live in 7 Skyline Place, Astoria, Oregon. I'm an independent energy consultant with 7 Skyline LLC. I just had a couple comments on smart meters. I appreciate the community's concern. As an independent energy consultant, I can say I'm actually kind of excited. I think it's great that our community is finally on the list to have that rolled out. For me, smart meters are part of upgrading our transmission and distribution grids that have been underinvested in for 30 or 40 years. That means opportunities to interconnect renewables and have reliable power that I think benefits the community. And the smart meters for me really mean that individuals have an opportunity to understand their own energy usage and make changes based on that usage to reduce their power use. And also that would mean hopefully reducing greenhouse gas emissions as well. So I think more information in this case could benefit a lot of community members, and I'm glad that that's the rollout's happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Renee Rowe.
Thank you. I'm Renee Rowe. I live at 299 South Street in Astoria, and I'm not here with a prepared speech. I'm here with a personal, seriously personal request. I'm 74 years old. I am retired. I am living on a limited income, and I am not able to live with one of those new power things on my house. And I will tell you why. I am sensitive to electricity, and in order to sleep in my bedroom, I unplug everything in that room. Otherwise, I don't sleep well. And I have been reading about these machines, and I know that they're very, very dangerous for the health of many. I'm not going to talk to you about that. I think you can probably research it, and you've probably heard about it, but there have been communities all over the world fighting to not have them, and they're going in anyway. They're even going in Costa Rica, where I was thinking of moving, because I wouldn't need a lot of electricity there. I'm here to request that you try not to allow them to make me pay $36 to opt out, because for me that's a serious hardship, and I'm sure it is for other people as well. I don't have the figures to say whether they're making more money or less money. It, to me, isn't my concern. I have to opt out to stay alive. And therefore, I request that you very seriously think about trying to speak to them, these people, to lower the opt-out fee, which I hear in Washington is $10. If I can't get my fee to opt out lowered, and by the way, I've already asked to opt out. I already got letters back from Pacific. And then they called me the next day and asked me if I would be willing to pay a couple of dollars extra for their renewable energy program, which I found very interesting. And of course, I would be willing to pay a couple of dollars for renewable energy. I think that's a good thing. But paying $36 to opt out of having a machine that is going to make me even sicker, and that I know has made many people sicker around the world, is not an option for me. And I ask you, please, to find a way to lower the opt-out fee for the sake of many people and many children who will suffer as a result, in my opinion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Lori.
Durheim.
How do you pronounce it?
Durheim.
Durheim. I know you. I just couldn't read the writing. I'm sorry.
I'm Lori Durheim, 398 Atlantic, Astoria, and it's choice. Not having a choice is the central issue in my mind to this, not being able to say yay or nay. And I think that is beyond the pale, that every person should have a choice whether they want this meter or not. And that's because that's what they're trying to take away, our choice.
Thank you. And last, we have James Anderson. Hello.
I live at 299 South Street, and I think I have a very effective, easy and effective way to get around the opt-out fee. When I lived in Denver, Colorado, for most of my working life, I lived in a house that had a meter, was inaccessible to the meter reader. And so what they allowed me to do is to send in my reading, and there was no charge for that. And I sent in the reading every month, and that's how they charged me for my electricity. And I think that if the power company would allow us to do that, we could opt out, which is our right to do, and we could send in that meter reading, and everything would be fine. We wouldn't have to pay any fee at all. So that's my suggestion, and I think it's doable. Other states allow it, and in fact, other states allow as low as $10 fee. I don't know why this state is offering $36. It's like everybody else says, it's extortion. But we could get away from it completely by just sending in our own reading each month, and I'd like to have that suggested to them.
Thank you.
Very much.
Commissioner, if I may just say for those here that the Pacific Power will be doing a presentation on the smart meters at our February 27th meeting. So they will be here in a couple weeks to present on the smart meters.
We seem to have a lot of people who've done a lot of reading about this, so would probably be good to come and listen to what Pacific Power has to say for the other side. No?
Madam Chair, I have a question for council.
Yes.
Do you know if it's legal? I mean, do we have any capacity to say anything to the PUC as a body? That's a new concept for me.
I mean, you always have a right to send a letter to any body that you wish to send it to. Yes, you absolutely could send something to the PUC. I will say there is litigation pending on this in Josephine County, which is the test county, and AOC, the Association of Oregon Counties, will be filing an amicus brief, or perhaps has filed one in that case. I'm not sure of the status at this point. We just had an update last week that AOC would be doing an amicus. I think I sent that out to all of you. But I don't know the status on this day and age, or at this point, but I assume that because of the pending rollout, there will be a lot of action taken quickly in it. So I'll try and have a status update for you by your next meeting.
Thank you.
Counselor, do you, if I may?
Yes, Commissioner Sullivan?
In terms of the AOC, what exactly does that mean? Does that mean they're supporting Josephine County, or they're
Yes,
just?
that's correct.
And so the status right now is waiting for the Josephine County to work through the court?
Yes, Josephine County passed a, I don't know if it was an ordinance, I think it was an ordinance. They were sued by the power company. That lawsuit is going through the courts, and AOC is intervening on the part, with an amicus, excuse me, they're not intervening, they are filing an amicus on the part of Josephine County.
What does amicus mean? I'm sorry, I don't know what that means.
Friend of the court. They're they're not intervening as a party, but they are being supportive of the party that's there.
Okay. Thank you.
Moving on to the consent calendar. Do we have an approval?
Madam Chair, move to approve the consent calendar as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent calendar with the amendment is approved. And that is moving item C to the business agenda. So now we'll move on to the business agenda. And this is regarding the resolution and order authorizing the county clerk to prepare a voter's pamphlet for regular elections.
Yes, Commissioners. My name is Tracy Kravenko, Clatsop County Clerk. And the item before you today is a resolution and order authorizing myself or my office to prepare and distribute voters' pamphlets for regular elections. It came about by the approval earlier this year, or last year, excuse me, by your governing body to have a voters pamphlet available for the special districts election, which is the odd-numbered year in May. Therefore, I put this, you guys asked to have this put together, and we went ahead and just made it for all regular elections. Regular elections are defined in ORS 255345. There's 4 dates of second Tuesday in March, third Tuesday in May, third Tuesday in September, and first Tuesday in November. So those will be the dates. If there is a regular election, we will provide a voter's pamphlet. And this is just authorizing us to do that until you guys decide otherwise again.
Chair, the reason I asked that this be pulled off the consent calendar is that we are heading into an election in May for some very important special districts. And so I would like to make a motion and then for us to discuss that, if that'd be possible.
Yes.
Okay. So I move that the board approve the resolution and order authorizing the county clerk to prepare and distribute a voter's pamphlet for regular elections.
Second.
It is moved
So I wanted to ask the county clerk some questions.
That would come after,
Actually, now, you
I-
can say it, moved and seconded, and then any further discussion.
well,
Yeah, yes, exactly.
okay. I'd like to state it. It is moved and seconded that the board approve the resolution and order authorizing the county clerk to prepare and distribute a voter's pamphlet for regular elections. Discussion?
Okay, thank you. So County Clerk, thank you for clarifying what the regular election is, because when we were having this discussion in the public, it was off-year elections or the regular elections. So regular elections just means that this point going forward, we will have a voter's pamphlet for each election that's coming forth. Is that your understanding?
Each election, meaning a regular election, means it's a regularly scheduled date available per ORS that a district can hold an election. It does not include like a recall election or an emergency election.
But it would include the special districts?
Yes, it
Okay,
would.
that was one of, I think, one of the main concerns. And in there, there was a budget amount of $30,000, and I understand that is something left, we don't know yet until the election comes and passes. That's just an estimated thing?
Correct. That is an estimate at this point, since this county has not done the voters pamphlet for a special district election in many years. So we're estimating the costs based on what we have paid for in our primary and general. But then those are in conjunction with the state pamphlet, so we do get a discount. So we'll know more going forward after this May.
Okay. And on the electronic copy of this, can you talk a little bit about what the county offers as an electronic version of this voter's pamphlet?
Yes, certainly. We currently put on an electronic version of our voters pamphlets. It is available as soon as we get it available, which is a lot of times before the ones are actually mailed out. It is available to anybody who accesses our website under the election. We've been doing that for a while now, and we will continue to do that. It's mainly great for people that are out of state or out of the country. They can still access the information who would not get a pamphlet otherwise.
Okay, so that sounds like that's been a success.
Mhm.
And we are expecting a voter's pamphlet for the one upcoming. Can you, this is separate from this, but how has it just recently opened for people to start signing up for some of these, like the rural fire district, the water districts, in the different special district? How has the turnout been so far?
We've gotten a few every day.
A few every day?
Yeah.
And when is the deadline for that?
That is March 21st to file for candidacy. Then to file for the voters pamphlet is March 25th.
March 25th, so they need to be working on that now to get that in.
Yes, the filing for the position first, preferably, before the voters pamphlet.
And so if anyone is interested in running for something in their community, they can go to your website, to the county election office website, and find out which positions are open. And if they have any questions, they can come to the county clerk's office, or is there answers on the website?
There's answers on the website. You can call us. We'll be glad to help you.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time and effort with this. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Commissioner Webb.
Is it possible to get maps for each of the special districts? There's been a lot of confusion from my constituents about what's available from the county.
That is not my department per se and specialty. I'm sure we possibly could.
That would be something that the IT department's GIS staff would work on. Yeah, well, no, that's not Alejandro. But that's something that if you want to provide us with further clarification, we can discuss with GIS.
I think it's a pretty straightforward thing. If a person knows from their tax bill that they're in the Lewis and Clark Water District, where do they find out what geographic area the Lewis and Clark Water District represents?
So you're just wanting like on the county's website, like District 5 is this area.
Yes. I don't know how a citizen.
Yeah, I want to say that that's on the website already.
Not, no, not the special districts. Commissioner districts are.
Yeah, the water districts are on there. Yeah. Yeah. On the, yeah, it's,
Put that up.
yeah, it's on the website. I can get further clarification.
Well, it's not
and
very
send
clear
you a link.
because I'm getting calls from people who can't
Okay.
find it and have also called the clerk's office and have been told they weren't available, so.
We don't have it. No, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not a keeper of that. Sorry.
But in the voters pamphlets, in the general elections, there's always a map of the district. I know that because they've been wrong in the past.
Of the commissioner district, yes. That's something we provide as an assistance. And it's, since we're the keeper of the commissioner areas, it's easy enough for me to get from our GIS.
Okay,
'Cause I did have them produce that for us for that pamphlet.
okay. But, I mean, I haven't been able to find it, and nobody I know have been able to find it on the website, so.
When I was in Washington County, it was usually you contact the district, the special
Well, the
district
problem is that
itself.
in Clatsop County, our special districts have very uneven,
Yeah.
that's a euphemism, websites. And so it's not always available.
Right.
May I? In terms of that, we are working on getting links to those special district websites. So if they come to the county, they'll be able to get directed to these different special districts.
Yes, if we can locate a website for that special district, we have linked it to the name of that district in elections, so they can reach that special district. Some districts do not have a website.
But we hope to compile a listing of who is in what office after the election of this special district, these people were elected, and this is the link to, if we can get that together. Is that correct?
Yes, Commissioner Sullivan. As I discussed with you yesterday, I am going to take the results and print them per district that has, each person that has one, along with their contact information, their term, and their expiration, and have it up as a link from the district. So people can see who has what positions and how to contact them.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Just one clarification question. So the
Commissioner Quila?
county web maps does have the overlays of all of these districts. So you can go to county web maps, you can go on the filters on the side and click on them and find those districts, special districts, boundaries.
Thank you.
Is that a separate website?
County web maps?
No, it's on the county website. It says, it's under the property assessment and property tax, and it says web maps. On the right-hand side, there's a link.
It's great.
And it's on the assessor, so it's on the
It's on the
assessor.
assessor's website.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion? I would like to point out that we listened to the voters requesting that we have this voters pamphlet in off years, and I hope that people remember that we are a responsive commission and county.
Oh, do we need to make the motion again?
The pending question is,
Call for the question.
Oh.
shall we approve the resolution in order authorizing the county clerk to prepare and distribute a voter's pamphlet for regular elections? An aye vote will adopt the motion, a no vote will defeat the motion, and the clerk will call the roll.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Now we move on to appointments to the Ambulance Service Area Advisory Committee, page 49.
Good evening, Commissioners, Madam Chair. I'm here tonight to bring before you two applications for the Ambulance Service Advisory Committee. We have vacancies in our fire representative position and a citizen position. And we have applications from Joey Daniels, who is the new appointed person from the Fire Defense Board, and Jill Tillotson, who holds the, I'm sorry, not the citizen position, the nursing position. They've both submitted applications, indicated interest for another term, and we're here tonight to ask you to approve those appointments.
Could you give us those names again?
Yes, Joey Daniels and Jill Tillotson.
Madam Chair, I'm confused.
I think what we have in front of us are different names.
Oh, what are the names?
I think
I'm so sorry.
you may be doing the consent calendar. This one is Tita Montero.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Joey Daniels.
Tita, I'm
You were
so
doing.
sorry.
I think you were doing consent
Yeah,
calendar.
I was on the right track in the first place. Tita Montero, who's here tonight, has applied for the citizen position. And I want to say, this position has been vacant for some time, and the Ambulance Service Committee was delighted to fill the position. We renewed the franchise agreement a few years ago, and we really worked hard to get that citizen input, to have another person and someone like her that has had that experience in public service is really invaluable.
So, Madam Chair, I move to approve the ASAA Committee's recommendation to appoint Tita Montero and Joey Daniels to the Ambulance Service Area Advisory Committee.
I second that.
It is moved and seconded that, I've lost my place, that the board approve the ASAA Committee's recommendations to appoint Tita Montero and Joey Daniels to the Ambulance Service Advisory Committee. Is there any discussion? The pending question is, shall we approve the ASAA Committee's recommendations to appoint Tita Montero and Joey Daniels to the Ambulance Service Area Advisory Committee? An aye vote will adopt the motion. A no vote will defeat the motion. The clerk will call the roll.
Aye.
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 And thank you.
If I may have just another minute of your time, I wanted to let you know that in April, we will be approving a new ambulance service area plan that we'll be bringing before the board to bring it in alignment with the franchise agreement that was updated a couple years ago. The last thing I want to mention has to do with the fire representative position. You may not be aware that this board created the ambulance service area in June of 1995. That's when we took over the ambulance franchise agreement and it kind of came to the county. Paul Olheiser, who just left the Ambulance Service Advisory Committee, was an original member. He's been doing it for all of these years, and I guess I'd like to ask if maybe we could consider
Yes.
if I would take the time to put together some sort of recognition, if the board would be willing to sign that.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now we have item 7C, the intergovernmental agreement with the City of Astoria for the collection of a 1% countywide tax on transient lodging within the Astoria city limits.
Thank you, Commissioner. So back in July of 2018, the board adopted the County Ordinance 2018-07, where effective January 1st, 2019, the county can impose a 1% tax on transient rooms, and that is countywide. Pursuant to ORS 320.350, 70% of those revenues must be tourist-related, spent on tourist-related facilities, and the remaining 30% can be used for county services. Per Ordinance 2018-07, the 30% for county services that is collected for this 1% countywide tax will be used for the operations of the jail facility. And the 70% collected will be distributed back to the cities to be used in ordinance ORS 320.350 by each of those cities. So this IGA is between the City of Astoria and Clatsop County, and it recognizes that the following is agreed upon, which is that the county shall be responsible for the administration and enforcement of that 1% transient room tax within the City of Astoria, consent to the county's administration and enforcement of the 1% transient room tax being collected within the cities, and that the cities shall not exceed the 1% of the rent as provided in ordinance number 2018-07. The county shall distribute that 70% portion of the net tax revenues the county collects from the transient lodging located within each city. And this agreement, like I said, is specific to the City of Astoria. The net tax revenues shall mean the county's actual tax receipts less any collector reimbursement charges described in ORS 320.345. And so just to further clarify, the agreement between the City of Astoria and Clatsop County is that the county is asking the board to authorize the county manager to sign this IGA with the City of Astoria, and staff is also requesting that the board authorize the county manager to sign any future intergovernmental agreements between the county and the cities of Cannon Beach, Gerhart, Seaside, and Warrenton, should each of these cities wish to enter into an agreement with us. Any questions?
I had a question, Madam Chair.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, Commissioner Thompson.
So Tillamook County has a very interesting, there's a sign outside the Nehalem Bay Fire Station that they bought with transient occupancy proceeds.
Mm-hmm.
And Pacific City, they have this dandy visitors center.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been able to do some things that I haven't seen happen here. Do they have a different interpretation, do you know? Or have they had more money? I mean, how did it work like that?
So I can't speak specifically to Pacific City or Tillamook because I'm not exactly sure what it is or what they're using it for. So the ORS is very specific as far as the tourism promotion and what those funds can be used for. And so I'd have to do more research to find out, like, what is their idea, what the sign is and what they're doing. We have been giving our grant monies to those who apply that qualify. We've given funds to the Astoria Warrenton Chamber of Commerce. The last time they applied, what they did with those funds is they have some very nice shelving that displays all of their brochures. We've given funds to the Seaside Visitors Bureau, and they have done some online video advertising. The Cannon Beach Historical Museum has used funds to do advertising on OPB. Columbia River Maritime Museum has used funds to advertise on the sides of buses. And I'm trying to think, Clatsop County Historical Society. I can't remember what they used their funds for a couple years ago that they applied for. So those are examples of the ways that we've been using the tourism promotion funds, is we've been giving the monies back to those qualifying entities that have applied.
All I'm saying is, I mean, I think you've listened to Commissioner Yamamoto maybe talk about that, because he's really proud of that center. It's a lovely center. And if there's a way that we could expand the range of possibilities for folks in Clatsop County, I think it'd be worth a phone call or two if you've got the time to do that, just to maybe we can have a little more room to be creative in the use of those dollars.
I invite you all to come see the Visitor Center at the Astoria Warrenton Chamber of Commerce after work there. It absolutely doubled the space available for brochures and for rack cards, so it certainly made a huge improvement. So, there is good work being done with that money.
May I ask a question? County Manager Monica Steele. At my place of work, the people come wanting to go on hiking trails, and I know that the Warrenton Trail Association, they have a map. Is that something that would be considered tourism-related that we could support?
I would have to look further into it. So if it's something that's advertising the trails, yes. depending on who's requesting the funds, because you can't just hand it out to some for-profit firm that's printing off these publications. If it's for the development of the trails, no, it can't be used for
The map itself, I mean, from what I've learned about advertising over the years, the map itself is advertisement for this county. And so it seems like that would fit. I mean, we give away our postcards because we know everybody that sends those, it's advertisement for us, you know, and it's a nice keepsake. So having maps of that seems like a piece of advertising. So I just wanted to put that in there to consider possibly for his budget coming up, that we could have some money in that direction.
Those maps are available and they're great. For sale, actually, at the visitor center.
And I do have Susan Brooks here from the city of Astoria in case there's any questions of her.
Okay. Commissioner Nebaker, can I say something? When I saw this, my feeling was that we have county facilities. We have county boat ramps, we have county parks, et cetera, that I don't think we do a very good job of advertising, and it's because we lack the money for it. So I'd like to see the funds that will revert to the county be used, at least to be considered for use, to promote our own facilities that the county supports. I'd kind of like to see maybe that appear in the budget requests that we get for this year.
Do we have a motion?
Well, that's an interesting question. So I had a suggestion. Should I make that as a motion? Or are we just motioning on, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're just motioning on that.
Rein it back in.
Script here. So, Madam Chair, I move that we approve and authorize the county manager to sign the intergovernmental agreement with the city of Astoria, as well as any future agreements between the county and cities for the collection of a 1% countywide tax on transient lodging.
Second.
It is moved and seconded that the board approve and authorize the county manager to sign the intergovernmental agreement with the city of Astoria, as well as any future agreements between the county and cities for the collection of a 1% countywide tax on transient lodging. Is there any discussion, any further discussion?
Call for the question.
The pending question is that the board approve and authorize the county manager to sign the intergovernmental agreement with the city of Astoria, as well as any future agreements between the county and cities for the collection of a 1% countywide tax on transient lodging. An aye vote will adopt the motion. A no vote will defeat the motion. The clerk will call the roll.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to item 7D, Public Works Facility Relocation, and Site Due Diligence.
So, excuse me.
Hello
So
again. Oh, I just said hello again.
Hello again, yes. So as we discussed earlier with our presentation of our site relocation, we have a proposal to relocate our facility outside of the inundation zone to a possible site located on Fort Clatsop Road, intersection of Lucas Lane. It's called the Crown Sorting Yard, owned by Warranton Fiber. And we also feel strongly about the acquisition of Crown Camp offices and shops at milepost 11 on Lewis and Clark Road. It's a strategic piece of property that can be used for road department purposes as well as other uses throughout the county. That's owned by James Nikas. We'd also like you to consider the acquisition of the Crown Main Line from Fort Clatsop Road to Crown Camp as we look to facilitate a seismic lifeline route from Warrenton to Seaside. This Crown Main Line is owned by, partially in a couple of miles, is owned by James Nikas. The other 5.5 miles is owned by Greenwood. So it's our request of the board tonight is to move forward with the appraisals of the 3 sites and the mainline roads, and also an approval of a phase 1 environmental assessment of the sites so that we can begin negotiating with the property owners.
Do you want to have a
Questions?
motion made before the discussion? Is that it?
If you have questions for staff, I think you can ask.
I have comments. Is it okay to make those?
If it's a discussion between the commissioners, then we should wait until after the motion.
I just want to give you a kudo and say how much peace of mind it will grant to, I think, all of the coastal folks and a lot of the river folks as well in this county. The analysis that you did, the vision, the thoroughness, for data nerds and policy nerds, it's a goosebump experience. For other people, it's just an example of really top drawer community service. So thanks for a job well done.
Would you like to make a motion?
Heck yeah. So I move that the board approve the Public Works Department's request to solicit 2 separate consultants to conduct a summary appraisal of real property and a phase 1 environmental assessment for the site, bless you, for the sites of the current Astoria facility, the former sort yard, and the former Crown Camp.
Do we have a second?
I second.
It is moved and seconded that the board approve the Public Works Department request to solicit 2 separate consultants to conduct a summary appraisal of real property and a phase 1 environmental assessment for the sites of the current Astoria facility, the former sort yard, and the former Crown Camp. Is there any further discussion?
Madam
Any
Chair?
discussion?
Yes, I do. I wanted to ask our representatives here, does that cover, because when you were giving your presentation, I thought I heard a third choice on our agenda, I mean, on our
Work session?
motion, we're saying the current Astoria facility, the former sort yard, and the former Crown Camp, but I thought I heard a third one.
Yes, the main line.
The main line, would that be a separate amendment,
It didn't get
or?
attached to here, but we're asking that we can move forward on that assessment as well.
So I would like to make a motion to amend our motion to include, what's the correct phrasing of that?
The Crown main line.
The Crown, so former Crown Camp and the Crown Main Line. Okay, thank you.
Good catch.
So we need a second?
Second. So she's
The
moving to
amendment?
amend my motion, right?
Okay, so
So we go to
I
the
agree
amendment.
that.
So we go to
It's
the,
agreeable to the maker and it's agreeable to the seconder, we can amend the motion.
Okay.
I think we go to the amendment, and then we vote on the amendment, and then we go back to the main motion, I believe.
Okay.
Can I make a statement, or are we just, we're discussing the amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
So did we have a second on the amendment?
I second the amendment.
Okay. So the amendment is to add, would you read that?
If we jump down in the amendment, the sites of the current Astoria facility, the former sort yard, and the former Crown Camp, and the Crown Main Line. And that would cover what you are hoping to do? Okay.
Okay, question?
Thank you for catching that. Yes, so what we have before us is the amendment to add the Crown main line to the main motion. So on this amendment, we vote, and an aye vote will adopt the amendment, and a no vote will defeat. The clerk will call the roll.
Excuse me, I don't, point of
Did you
order,
want more
I think.
discussion on this?
Well, I'm just wondering if the person who made the first amendment accepts this, does that become then a friendly amendment, and we can just vote on the whole thing at once? No.
parliamentarian
Okay.
here. Should we ask him? He would know.
Oh, he's saying no, okay, so we'll just go with what you're, I'm wrong, so. Let's take the roll.
Okay, an aye vote will adopt the motion, and a no vote will defeat the motion. The clerk will call the roll.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now we go back, and we go
We've
back.
amended the motion. Do we have to go back?
I think we go back to the main motion, don't we? Yes, okay.
Vote it up or down?
So, we go back to the main motion that the board will approve and authorize the county manager to sign the intergovernmental agreement with the city of Astoria, as well as, that the board approve the Public Works Department request to solicit 2 separate consultants to conduct a summary appraisal of real property and a Phase 1 environmental assessment for the sites of the current Astoria facility, the former sort yard, and the former Crown Camp, and the Crown Main Line.
Yes. What am I supposed to?
No, I'm sorry.
We had here,
No, we're doing this, it's good.
Okay, so
We're just going to call the roll, I bet.
did we have a second on that?
Yeah, we did.
We did, okay. Is there any further discussion? I think we've talked about it quite a bit. Okay.
Then I won't say anything. Go ahead.
Pardon me?
I was trying to say something.
Oh, well, okay, we can have discussion now.
No, let's move on.
I have a little discussion. I like the idea that when we're looking at going forward in the project, I think it's a great project for public safety and for better public services. Commissioner Sullivan, during the work session, I like the idea that there was the possibility of another, I think it was 23 acres, if I recall correctly, that might be useful for, I want to call it parkland or recreation land of some kind. I'm not interested in committing to going forward. I'm interested in considering possibilities, and I thought maybe you didn't like that idea. So I want to give clear direction to staff about whether or not.
No, I'm just trying to stay on task, and the first thing to do is to find out if we are able to acquire these lands and at what cost, and if we can then afford them. And once we get that determined, then we can discuss other opportunities. But for me, I wish we had done this 10 years ago, so I'm all for, hey, let's do it. But would I like to have the best use of land? Sure.
I just thought it was a parts A and B to the one site.
Well, we don't know, as far as my understanding is, we're looking at this site, and there are, we don't know, we haven't had the assessment yet, and we haven't had a statement from the person who wants to sell it to us, what they're willing to sell and at what cost. So I think we have to find that out first.
I agree. I would be opposed to expanding the scope of this. Let's keep it focused on the project.
Okay.
I would like to say something. I really commend the work that you all have done. During the campaign, one of my criticisms of the county budgetary process was the lack of forethought about future public works investments. And I think this was a terrific initiative that was taken by the staff. It's a long-term investment for the county, and I really applaud it, and I hope we see much more of this kind of thinking and action on the part of our staff to recommend to us what kinds of capital improvements programming we need to be doing. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
I would just point out, I'm not done yet. I would just point out, I'm not in favor of that additional 23 acres unless we could broker an agreement whereby we could receive payment for it from somebody else. So I'm not looking to include cost to county taxpayers. It's just if we're doing it all, it makes sense to me to do it all at once, but I understand my colleagues may not agree with that, but I'd rather look big and be able to tailor it down than have to expand it later at additional expense.
So just to clarify, because are you saying that when they look at this, you would like them to look at the entire possibilities of that? But I thought that was already on the map, that you were going to look at that whole site.
Yes, Warren Fiber has offered the whole site.
So that,
which is 2 parcels of property adjacent to one another. And they're willing to break off just the sorting yard, but they're offering the others.
so when we get the assessment done, they'll come back to us with that information.
Broken into parts A and B.
And then we can further discuss it. And my only urgency here is that I don't want to delay this project. I'm open to discussing that, but I want this project to move forward.
Agreed. So, agreed. It's only if it's quick and easy and it's a wash for taxpayers.
Okay. Chair, I call for the question.
Thank you. So the pending question is that the board approve the Public Works Department request to solicit 2 separate consultants to conduct a summary appraisal of real property and a Phase 1 environmental assessment for the sites of the current Astoria facility, the former sort yard, and the former Crown Camp, and the Crown Main Line. An aye vote will adopt the motion, a no vote will defeat the motion. The clerk will call the roll.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Now we have,
Thank you.
let's see, 7E, the jail project, project manager, the owner's representative.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. We're here to request approval of our project management company that we've selected.
I'm having trouble hearing.
Yeah, I have a hard time.
Not loud enough?
A lot louder, please.
Yeah, a lot.
Sure.
I'm serious. I mean, we can't
Yeah,
hear
we're
it.
just not.
If we can't hear it, I guarantee that folks in the audience can't hear it.
This is the next step in the jail bond project and to construct a new jail. And this was outlined, on the county website that this would be the next step. And as with all projects that we do, we partner with the department that it's their project. So county management and sheriff's office are partners on this and working together. We developed the RFP and developed the scoring, and then the scoring was done by partial county staff and partial citizens' help. And you have the agenda item in front of you. If you have any questions, we're here to answer them.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Thompson.
I want to appreciate the fact that I was included as an observer in this process. It was, I thought, a process that was well-run. It gives me more of a sense of kind of a validity test of the evaluation. So I'm here as your independent observer to say that I agree with what happened.
Thank you, Commissioner.
You're welcome.
Any questions for staff?
Go ahead.
Perhaps this isn't a question as much as it is a suggestion. I had a conversation this afternoon with our interim county manager, and I've been very critical about the whole metamorphosis of this jail project for the lack of citizen input that was derived before the initial design that we're dealing with right now. And I think I got a promise from the county manager that as part of the project management, we would rethink a citizen involvement program, that we would make sure that the ultimate users of the jail would be at the table. I think I'm a little clearer now about where the project is. And I'm not sure the community is, and I wonder if the commission is. Really understanding the extent to which the architecture has been completed and what steps need to be taken for the A&E to proceed, for the project to go further. I would encourage the project management folks to be certain that maximum public information is provided about what's going on, about the process, that the ultimate users of the jail be involved directly in that process, and that our citizens are kept apprised of the schedule, their financial investment, and hopefully, wouldn't it be exciting to actually go out to our citizens with this plan? Maybe have some open houses throughout the county. I just think, you know, I'm really disgusted at the lack of citizen input to this process so far. And you can expect that I will remind you every step of the way when I think there should be more citizen involvement. I look forward to the staff's creativity in augmenting their plans to include that rigorous citizen input. Thank you.
Sorry. Chair Nebaker, may I speak?
Yes, Commissioner Sullivan. Do you have a question?
I don't know yet. On the amount of money that we're considering for this, I know that there's kind of a list of how that all pencils out. How do you come to that figure? Is that like a norm within project management? How was that decided?
Initially, we got a fee. How you do these evaluations is you evaluate by their qualifications, and then you look at their cost. So you're trying to pick the best firm, and then you look at the cost. And we initially got a cost that was quite a bit higher than this, and we had some discussions with the selected firm, and then they revised their numbers based on, you know, what they, you know, some more information they had, and we're within the industry standard is maybe like 2% of your project cost, and we're under that, and so we're right where we think we need to be.
And then this is paid as the project progresses. It's not all up front or
right.
Just at the end.
There's a fee schedule that's, you know, we got an amount that we think we're going to spend this fiscal year, and then by phases after that.
And if I may, this projects manager team, did they talk about how they will include the public in this process? Because would that be something that would fall under their purview, or?
Yes, they actually have some great ideas with regards to the process. Number one being a design review committee and having citizen involvement in that. Part of that committee, we want to have experts within it, that being i.e. the mental health component. We want the expert, especially in the jail environment, to be giving us information and advice with regards to how do we properly design that pod so that it's more beneficial to our members that may be suffering from significant mental health issues while in custody. We also want on that design review committee maybe a local architect that will understand our hired architects with the understanding of kind of like this firm, their job is to protect our interests, to get the best product we can for the least cost, to be more efficient for operations, maybe a local architect being on there that understands architect speak and are able to give us good advice as to whether or not they're trying to pull the wool over our eyes.
So, oh, sorry, go ahead.
And we're also looking for a mental health component from our local service providers. Someone involved in, that wouldn't be bidding on it, but someone involved in the construction part of it, so that, and then more importantly, I think to the point that you're getting to is having, like you said, the open houses, or maybe the work sessions, we bring it to you, we make sure that the public's well informed and invited to see each milestone that we are going to be getting to, that we can inform the public and seek input from the public, whether that be by comment cards or by someone taking notes as to suggestions or ideas. One thing that I am concerned about, I do not want a place where we have a 30-member committee, because that slows things up. And if there's one message we have received is, the longer this process takes, the more expensive it's going to cost us. So 30 people in a room trying to make decisions generally doesn't work out that well. We'll be happy to take public comment and to take their suggestions in, but that committee itself that is going to be making some pretty significant decisions needs to be relatively small so that we can keep the work going and make decisions.
So if I may clarify a little bit. So we have, what we're doing tonight is choosing a project manager that's going to be overlooking this whole process from start to finish and representing us.
Correct.
And one of the things that, what I heard you say is that they are actually suggesting that we have what we would in our county commission terms would say an ad hoc committee, but you're talking about an advisory committee separate from the architectural firm or the engineers that would have representatives from the mental health, medical, and all the different things in the community. That would be a separate advisory committee that would work with the project manager and the architects and the staff going forward. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct, yes.
And so how would we determine, do they have ideas on how we would determine this advisory committee, or is that something that would be worked out yet?
I think the easiest way is, number one, ask who wants to be involved.
We've
Ask our citizens.
We've already had some outreach from such as the defense attorneys. We've had outreach from them, and then as far as mental health, physical health providers, we've also reached out ourselves to the courts to see in regards to judges who might be interested in potentially having some input as to the setup out there as well. So,
Are we going to, what about the medical community?
Our doctors have actually already volunteered to be part of the process, especially for that wing that they're going to be working in.
And are we going to be, and this may already be part of it, but I just attended a lecture last night looking at the energy needs. Maybe that's something that will already automatically be considered, how best to be the most efficient building that we can have. And
David's a real whiz at it.
And we've already, on most of our projects we reach out to Energy Trust, and they actually pay us for some energy design charrettes, and we've received those like on the household hazardous waste project, and it sets us up for getting incentives. And so I've already registered this project with Energy Trust, and so we'll be setting up those same type of meetings with them. They'll do an analysis
Excellent.
of the existing building, and they'll give us, you get incentives from Energy Trust if you build above what code is, code requirements for energy usage. If you build above that, they give you incentives, and that, reduces our, cost for utilities.
so as we go along in this process, I just, one more question here. So when we talk about energy savings of what because we're looking overall, the biggest fear that I've had over the last year or so that we've discussed this jail is we don't want to build a beautiful building that we can never move into, like the one in Portland. So I think all along the way, we are going to have to at the same time, be considering the operating budget, and that's part of this plan, correct?
Correct. We're already starting the budgeting process with regards to the operational component. As an example, the upcoming budget, we'll be hiring 2 of the 5 deputies to make sure that we can get them to the academy and trained and well-versed in operations before we move into a new building, which is challenging enough as is. We already are going to be hiring support staff to learn the new process. We're also going to be adding a new jail management system. So again, I don't know about you guys, but every time a new computer system comes out, it takes me 3 years to figure out how to push the right button. We want to get that dealt with before, again, we move into a new building. So we're already moving forward on the operational issues. With regards to jail health, we're going to be meeting with the folks in Lincoln County in 2 weeks because they seem to have a very cost-effective program, but we want to make sure that we understand it wholly, that they don't have hidden costs off somewhere else because it's a very efficient cost figure right now, but we want to make sure we understand the full breadth of it before we model it. We also are looking and exploring options with the local hospitals with regards to providing health care within the facility, especially from the doctor component, because of our 2 docs. One of them is going to be leaving us at the end of the year, and the other one's agreed to stay until the new jail happens. So we want to get ahead of that game also.
And if I may say one more thing, on our one of our conference calls this week, I understand there's a bit of a rub between the state, how the state handled that building, and potentially getting some help in that direction from deferred maintenance, shall we say?
We're still working with Betsy on that. I don't have a whole lot of confidence in it, being that at least what Betsy is struggling with now currently is an $800 million hole in the state budget. So what seems like $1 or $2 million to us doesn't seem like a lot. Well, that's $1 or $2 million added to the 800. So, but we are still pushing it. We are going to provide her a plan with regards to this is what we're able to create with the state funds. The easiest way of addressing that is to remediate and fix the buildings that we are physically going to be using as part of this project. We will also look at exploring the options with regards to the other buildings. The challenge there is we need to have a program ready to go, or she feels that'll be a difficult sell. It'll be easier, especially with what our project encompasses, the L. I think that'll be a relatively no-brainer. But we have some other ideas with regards to how do we use the other facilities. One idea that's out there now is the Consolidated 911 Center. So we could incorporate getting the deferred maintenance taken care of with that building, because this is what we're looking to be able to accomplish with it. The other 2 buildings are a bit more challenging, because that's going to be a private partnership as best as I can see it.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Well, we just started talks with CBH as, you know, is there a possibility for supportive housing in one of the buildings? But that is really early in the process, and I don't think that's going to be anywhere near ready for the current legislative session. And we don't know if that's honestly, the right place for it, to be honest with you. I mean,
Pardon me, may I just ask? So have you talked with Oregon Housing and Community Services? I mean, because they have some money for permanent supportive housing.
Right. I have not, no.
Let me just recommend that.
Oregon
Housing and Community Services.
And if I may say one thing, Monica, if I may, I talked to Commissioner Frank Spence last night, and I learned something. He said, and so I'm hoping maybe you can expound upon it. He said, boy, it's great news that Astoria got this terrific bond rating. That's going to mean less money. So, and I don't know if, can you talk about the
Can I
terrific
say that
bond
we
rating
got a
we
better bond rating than the Astoria School District? Yes, I can.
I wanted to give you that opportunity, but what does that mean in terms of money that we're going to be paying over the life of the bond?
Yeah, so the bond rating is very important, and that does work to our favor. The other piece that we're hoping is market conditions working in our favor. Our bond sales are set to sell on February 21st. And so the better the bond rating, the more appealing you are. And as far as selling at a premium, Astoria School District sold at, was it 12.9% premium? And so essentially that means that you're getting more money. And then they're also able to, the tax rate that's going to be levied is less. And so I think that they were at a dollar something, $1.68.
And they got reduced to $2.75.
Yeah. So they're able to get more money, but it's costing the taxpayers less.
And so that'll be the case for us, hopefully, too.
Hopefully, yeah. Like I said, the AA2 rating really works in our favor, but again, the market conditions, we just need it all to come to fruition.
I'll say Warrenton got 268 and now it's 251, so they got
Wow.
a big reduction too.
Yeah.
So, well, that's good news.
That's very good news.
Excellent news. I'd also like to mention that I've been through several bond ratings for local municipalities, and they're arduous. And so I'd like to commend our county manager for having honchoed this process and helped make us look very good.
Well, thank you. I also had Chief Deputy Williams and Lieutenant Phillips with us as well, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Are we ready for a
Commissioner
motion?
Thompson. Yes, we are.
I move that the board authorize the county manager to sign a contract with Cornerstone Management Group, Inc., to act as the project manager and owner's representative for a not-to-exceed amount of $452,000, and the contract would extend until December 2021, and authorize the county manager to sign contract amendments.
It is moved that the board authorize, did we have a second?
Second.
Oh, okay. It is moved and seconded that the board authorize the county manager to sign a contract with Cornerstone Management Group, Inc., to act as the project manager and owner's representative for a not-to-exceed amount of $452,000, and the contract would extend until December 2021, and authorize the county manager to sign contract amendments. Is there more discussion? All right. Yes. The question is, shall the board authorize the county manager to sign a contract with Cornerstone Management Group to act as the project manager and owner's representative for a not-to-exceed amount of $452,000, and the contract would extend until December 2021, and authorize the county manager to sign the contract amendments. An aye vote will adopt the motion, a no vote will defeat the motion. The clerk will call the roll.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
So, Paul, you lived long enough to see it. Well done.
So we'll move on to item F, page 115.
So it is that time of year for us to approve the payment of the AOC dues. The total 2019 budget that was adopted at the annual AOC conference, including the CFTLC membership last November, that amount is $27,537.50. And then we broke out what each of those dues is for, both the general fund dues, the public land fund dues, as well as voluntary dues. At the March 28th, 2018 board meeting, the board voted to withdraw from their membership of the CFTLC, and therefore, if you were to exclude that amount from the total invoice, it would be $15,737.50. That would remove the portion of the general fund dues as well as the the CFTLC dues as well as the voluntary CFTLC special assessment dues. So the staff is just asking direction at this time of what amount the board would like us to pay.
I would like to make a motion.
Commissioner Sullivan.
I make a motion to pay the AOC general fund dues, public land fund dues, AOC voluntary dues, the CFTLAC dues, and the CFTLAC special voluntary assessment dues in the amount of $27,537.50.
Second.
It is moved and seconded that the board approve the AOC 2019 general fund dues, public lands funds dues, fund dues, video lottery defense fund dues, PERS alliance dues, veterans fund dues, and CFTLC membership and voluntary dues totaling $27,537.50. Is there any discussion?
Let me see if the one that I read, voluntary dues, special, oh, so that doesn't, I guess I'm confused here. Because on the, potentially it is general funds, public lands, do we have to list all of these, or is 27,005, is that counts for everything?
That's
The
everything.
$27,537.50 is all the dues that AOC is billing us for.
So did I read the correct
I thought you
motion?
did.
You read the correct one?
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
I think I left out PERS and video, the video lottery. So let me read this one, all right? Is that, we need to do that?
Well, Sarah.
Oh, you did, you corrected, okay, okay,
Okay.
okay, perfect.
So, the pending question is, shall the board approve the AOC 2019 general fund dues, public lands fund dues, video lottery defense fund dues, PERS alliance dues, veterans fund dues, and CFTLC membership and voluntary dues totaling $27,537.50. An aye vote will adopt the motion, and no vote will defeat the motion. The clerk will call the roll.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to item business G in page 123.
So back in October 25th, 2018, Clatsop County entered into an agreement with the Zion Fund Incorporated for the purchase of approximately 61.9 acres located out at the North Coast Business Park in Warrenton. Per Section 2.1 of the sales agreement, the buyer had 60 days from the date of the sales agreement to sign and complete due diligence, or the option to extend that time to 90 days upon payment of an additional $10,000 in escrow. On December 21st, Zion exercised its option to extend and deposited the $10,000. So there is now $35,000 in the escrow account. Zion then had until January 24th, 2019 to complete its due diligence. On January 24th, Zion submitted a request to the county to extend its due diligence period for another 45 days. And there was a misunderstanding in your original agenda summary. The intention was for it to be 45 days from the date that it was approved to be signed by the interim county manager. So that would put the new expiration date to be April 1st. So by authorizing the interim county manager to sign it, it would extend the agreement until April 1st. I have Jim Ryder here, who is the broker, and he has also provided for us some slides from the Zion Group. Am I able to go back and forth? No. This one here is an aerial view, and Jim could probably come up and speak to it better than I can, but these are the proposed buildings that they would be putting on this site and what the purpose of those buildings would be for. And then the other slide was a image of the campus, kind of like in a two-dimensional view.
Can we go back to the
other one?
The site plan?
There you go.
Okay, that's what I wanted. I have a couple of questions.
In regards to that site plan?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to call Jim up because I don't know anything about it.
Answer.
Hello.
Hi. Is the outline, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, does that include all of the land that is presently under contract?
Yes.
Okay.
The middle part that shows all the action there, that's the phase 1.
And that's
phase 1. And
right.
part of that, you see the lower left corner there, that is an almost 10-acre parcel that, well, not parcel, but piece, that the buyers are working with the Jim Knight and Clatsop College on dedicating some of that to them so they can benefit from the project.
Oh.
Which one is that?
The phase 2 site?
Okay.
And I just found out about that, so I would ask Jim about it.
Okay, and, okay, wait a minute. They're working with Jim Knight? With the
port. The port.
The port?
Yes, the port.
Oh,
And I
okay.
just received this today too, so I don't know that much about it.
Okay, well, I'm also noticing 2 ponds. Does that mean that the engineering has been done to mitigate the wetlands issues?
I don't know, but I doubt it.
Pardon me?
I don't know the answer to that, but I doubt it.
So this is just a conceptual?
This is conceptual, from my understanding.
Madam Chair?
What they're doing is the buyers are working with investors to fund extremely involved project, and in order to do that, to attract them, they are attempting to get letter of intents from potential tenants, and they've met with many different possible tenants so far. There was a convention in late December in Hawaii, a tech convention, and they met with some very high-level companies that we would all know their name if we said them, and they're very excited about the potential of bringing them in. And it all has to do with, high-speed fiber optics, and once they think they'll have one letter of intent by next week, late next week, and that will help them snowball what they're trying to accomplish, and that's why they're asking for more time.
So, Madam Chair, if I may?
Commissioner Thompson?
My go-to person on issues like this is usually Jim Knight or Frank Spence, because the ports are really our economic driver on the ground. And what Jim said was it's a very complex project, and in his estimation, they were making good progress. And so I would turn to the Port Commission chair sitting in the audience and kind of put him on the spot and say, does that seem agreeable to you, in your opinion, Frank?
Excuse me, yes, an extension would be in line. Mr. Knight has been conducting all the details, which I'm not familiar with.
Right.
At this point, I'm recommending the extension.
So you asked good specific questions. I asked a general question from somebody I trusted and then asked somebody else I trusted, so.
I'll make one other general comment, if I could, is that the buyers are very, very excited about this and about how their meetings have been going, and they're very excited.
I'm glad they're excited. I'm not real excited because we haven't been given a lot of details. You know, I'm accustomed to a business park or an industrial park being fully platted and fully infrastructured long before anybody comes in to buy. Now, that's on us. I mean, that's on the county, that we haven't done that. But I do think maybe a little bit more communication. We seem to be going through a number of extensions, which makes me very nervous.
This is the only extension, isn't it?
This is the second one, isn't it?
Is
Well,
this
they
your?
had a right to extend in the original purchase agreement.
You always have a right to extend, usually, but
And they exercise it. This is the first time they're asking for an extension.
yeah.
This is separate from Agile. Agile has come before,
Right. No,
yeah.
no, I understand that. I understand that. But I guess I'm also, I have a lot of concerns about the environmental issues here. And, I mean, is this a serious site plan? You know,
I think it's conceptual. I mean, I think that's fair to say. That's my opinion, and I'm certainly not a planning expert.
I think it's pretty unusual for a buyer to come in for a parcel this big, and being this unspecific through this point in the due diligence process.
And I think the result of these renderings here might have to be with me, because they weren't going to be able to make it here. And I said, well, give me something to work with, give me a rendering, give me something. And so they did, boom, and I got it today, so.
Okay. Noted.
So the issue before us is whether or not we will grant an extension.
So, Madam Chair, if I may. Commissioner Webb, do you, I hear your concerns about the lack of specificity, and that it is in fact the second transaction in which we've granted an extension. And so, if I hear you correctly, what you're pointing to is that you would be more comfortable, and you think the rest of the board would be more comfortable if we had more specific information. Is the lack of concreteness or specificity enough to deter you, or are you agreeable to going forward?
I think at this point, I would support an extension, but I would also ask the purchaser to move quickly.
And provide specific feedback if I hear you.
And give us some kind of an indication of precisely what it is they're working on, who some of these tenants might, well, they can't tell us who they might be, but certainly to let us know as soon as they do have some, a letter of intent from somebody.
Okay.
I would also like to see a site plan that included the entire parcel. Because I don't, this is kind of unusual to have this quite this way.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I think they're asking us to hold out for a pretty long period of time for a parcel of land that is pretty valuable. So that's.
So, Madam Chair, I move that the board authorizes the interim county manager to sign the contingency extension for Zion Fund, Inc. as amended.
Second.
It is moved and seconded that the board authorize the interim county manager to sign the contingency extension for Zion Fund, Inc. as amended. Is there any further discussion? The pending question is that the board authorize the interim county manager to sign the contingency extension for Zion Fund, Inc. as amended. An aye vote will adopt the motion, a no vote will defeat the motion. The clerk will call the roll.
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
Commissioner Webb, I appreciate your expertise in these matters.
As do I. Thank you.
Now we move on to page 137, 2019 to 2020 Board of Commissioners budget.
So it's the time of year where departments are currently working on their current year revenue and expense projections. And so what you have on page 138 is a copy of the Board of Commissioners budget for the current year. So when you look at the column that says 2018-19, that's the amount that was budgeted. That does not include any budget adjustments. That is the adopted, original adopted amount. Then the middle column that says as of 2/3/19, those are all the costs that when we rolled into this new budget module, all the costs that had been expended as of February 3rd. And then the projected column is where do you anticipate your budget being at the end of this fiscal year? And so I have filled in for you, but you are welcome to make edits to this, where we anticipate you ending up. And some of this is based on historical information, and some of this is based on information that we know to be true at this point in time. So, for instance, if you look at the line item for fuel vehicles, there was nothing budgeted there, but the reason being is because we've separated out the reimbursed travel expense so that we can better capture how much is spent on fuel and how much is spent on hotels and lodging and that sort of thing. And then the education and training line item, we budgeted $4,000, but then after talking with Teresa, not realizing that doesn't include county college, because that wasn't something that we were thinking about last year when we built the budget. So what I'm asking the commissioners to do is kind of what we're asking all the departments to do. Where do you anticipate your budget finishing up for the end of this fiscal year, and providing us that information? And then the next thing that I'm asking is for the Board of Commissioners to also look at what they want to ask for next year. And so what departments do, general fund departments are required to have a base budget, which means that in their materials and services, they cannot increase their costs. They have to budget the same amount as they budgeted in the prior fiscal year. And if they want something more than that, then what they do is they fill out a reason for changes in personnel or work program. So for instance, what I've done here is next year we would like to ask the budget committee, who authorizes the board's stipend, to do a cost of living adjustment of 3%. So it would be increasing the stipend amount. So that would be one adjustment. If you'll notice, the requested column is all zeros, and so I'm just asking that the board take that information, complete it the way that they would like to propose it, and then turn it into me by the end of the month, when these are all due by the departments, which is March 1st.
Madam Chair, may I?
Yes. Commissioner Thompson.
So if you could go back to page 139, please.
Yes.
When I looked at this, I've done a lot of budgeting over decades, and I have never just had numbers. When I look at department overview, it talks about looking at what we do as a whole. We need to have goals, the board rules require us to have outputs, a plan. So just to have numbers apropos of no goals, no outputs, and no plans doesn't seem to me to be a very good way to do things. So I understand that you have the way you've dealt with staff. I've been someplace between incensed and in despair about the board's budgeting process. So thank you for bringing this to us before it's just achieved as a done deal. I'm really grateful for that. I would like us to have a work session to talk about our board goals, our outputs, and our plan, because only then, I think, can we accurately or validly complete the numbers, because they derive, numbers for budgets derive from goals, outputs, and plans.
Perhaps I misunderstood, but I thought this was for each of us.
Yes.
Individually, as
Yes.
commissioners.
Yeah, so you can each provide your input as to what you are hoping to be able to ask for next year, and then what we'll do is we'll combine that information, so then that way, when we take this to the Budget Committee, we would be proposing what the Board of Commissioners is asking for. So
Thank
if
you.
you have a travel budget that you are wanting to, currently it's split five ways, 3,000 apiece for a total of 15,000. So if you anticipate your travel budget exceeding that, and say you're thinking it would be 4,000, then you would be asking for yourself an additional $4,000. Or if you think that you are going to be fine with the 3,000, if you have your conferences that you know that you regularly attend, but perhaps there's additional ones that are going to require additional conference registration costs, then you would incorporate those requests in there as well.
Thank you.
So I'm not thinking of a one by one thing. I'm thinking of us as a governing body to look at what we want to achieve and deriving from that joint effort, not a one by one thing.
Well, I think perhaps we can look at both, because this, well, I think this is good myself, and when we do our goals, then we can.
You do have a board goal setting session set for February 25th.
I think when I'm looking on the page 139, I'm thinking that we can probably edit that a little bit or add to that a little bit.
Yeah.
It seems kind of dry, so maybe that's something that we can talk about in the goal set in February
Exactly.
25th. And I think, like we all get emails all the time about wonderful opportunities that we can all attend and whatnot. But there are actually some that come along that I would like to do. But I know last year, doing what I do, because I travel to Salem, that really bites into my share. So I think if I can interpret a little bit what Commissioner Thompson is saying is that that us as a body may want to look at the budget in terms of us as a body, because the conversation that we had with Senator Johnson about the legislative, what's going on in the legislature, I think we may want to talk about, do we want to have more in our budget so that we can lobby more for the Clatsop County, and how do we budget for that? Because I don't think we've been doing a lot of that up to this point, or recently in my, so I'm thinking there's some things like that. And there's and I don't know if we ever want to go nationally. We all got invited to go to Washington. That's above and beyond too. So I mean, I think those are some of the things that we can talk about possibly in the goal setting thing about what do we want for this year. But then the other thing, this is separate, is there was a little bit of a talk last year about possibly getting on the medical benefits for the county. And I know that that's somewhat complicated. It's not, and so I'm wondering if there's been any input on that, if that's something we could consider in this at this time, or what.
this would be the time to ask for it. At a minimum, the board would have, or the county would have to pay for at least 50% of your insurance costs. And so if you look at this changes in personnel or work program, so if you wanted to fill out that you would like to be eligible for the county's insurance, and so what you would put that request on there, and then we would know, is it just for you? Is it for you and a partner? Is it for you and a child? What plan it is you would be on, and then what that cost associated with it would be. Staff would be able to fill that out. The board would need to decide at what level do you want the county to cover. At a minimum, it has to be 50%. For employees, the county covers 90% and the employee pays 10%. So that would be the information. So if you fill out this reason for changes in personnel or work program, you're telling me this is what I'm asking for and this is why. And when staff complete these and these get approved, that is where on the budget highlights, maybe there's something that's changing in their budget and a line item has changed by $5,000-$10,000 and it's like, whoa, what's going on there? I'm able to take that information that they filled out on that justification form, and I'm able to put that into the budget highlights to say, or they put it in there saying, some of the things that have changed a lot is I'm asking for health insurance coverage this year for commissioners, and previously this wasn't paid for. Or in some instances, maybe an expense is going away, and why is it going away? Well, because that program is no longer being served or whatever.
Well, I had a conversation, I believe, with a CIS person when we were discussing this last year, and my understanding is that, and I don't know if this is true or not, but that it couldn't be included as our stipend. Like, we couldn't say, I'm giving up my stipend to do this, and the county has to pay a particular share. We can't say, I'll pay that 50% just to get in. So that's the complication that I'm talking about. Do you know if you would be able to get an amount that we could consider?
Yeah, we can get you we can break it out by tiers. So like I said, the county has to cover at least 50%, and so we can break it out with the county covering 50%, the county covering 70%, the county covering 90%.
I'd be happy with 50%. I'm paying 100% right now, so.
Yeah.
I'm paying 100% too, so I'd be interested in how that breaks out.
Yeah. Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments?
Are all the commissioners clear about what we would be putting on this?
I'm not sure I am. I really support Commissioner Thompson's plea. This shouldn't be blank. This piece of page 139 should not be blank. It should be fully vetted, and the overview, I think, can be more articulate. And I'd love to see us work on this in our goal-setting session.
So moving forward, if I don't have something from the board by March 1st, what I will do is I'll put in the base budget amounts, and that's what would be going before the budget committee. Because starting to move forward, we're going to be compiling the information. And so if I can have something like as far as your amounts, that way I can put that request into the budget document, so that way we have something to propose to the budget committee. We can hold off on filling out, the major accomplishments, the budget highlights, the performance measures, that information. But I have to have numbers to be able to put the whole budget document together, so I know what all the departments are asking, how much money is being asked.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's the process that I'm talking about. I think that this is something that we should do collaboratively. For instance, the travel issue, which is becoming an important thing in my life, with County College, et cetera. This week, we could be in Salem. I should have been in Salem Monday and Tuesday because it was AOC's day.
Oh, you didn't get to go?
I didn't go.
Oh.
You know why? Because I can't afford to kennel my dog for that many consecutive days. And I have to go to county college tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock. So these are things I'd like for us to talk more about collaboratively, about what our responsibilities are for covering things in terms of our travel. And I think that we need to do that collaboratively.
I think that is putting it off. If we need to have this in, there's no time for us to talk about it collaboratively.
Don't we have a goal setting?
So, yeah, you have goal setting on the 25th, and so
that's different.
the goal setting is to establish what your goals
Yeah, it's
are that
not
you're
the
trying to
budget.
accomplish. The budget piece of it, if you give me some numbers, so that way by March 1st, that way I have an idea, because then I'm going to start meeting with all of the different departments and knowing what everybody else is requesting as well. Because I have to have a starting point. I have to have a starting point as to what everybody is requesting.
Okay, excuse me, but in my budgeting experience, one starts with the goals, and the numbers come out of that.
But you
So-
know what you wanted, you know that you're attending county college, and Commissioner Sullivan knows that there's some things that she might want to do that she's gotten emails for. Just because it's budgeted doesn't mean it has to be spent, but if you think that, this would be really good education for me to contribute to the board.
I don't look at decisions like that about me. I look at them as the commission.
Well, I can't say what you should be doing or not
I
be
don't
doing
think
as
you
far as-
should,
Well,
but I think
that's
we
individual.
collaboratively should be goal setting, and once the goals are made, then we flesh them out. We program them out with money. And that's something.
Okay, well, then we'll just have the same budget that we had last year.
No.
Well,
I think, is it possible that we kind of break this down into parts? Because the reality of the timeline for the budget for this year, that has a schedule. So I agree that we need to talk about goals. I agree to that, and we have a meeting set up. That's on the 25th. Their next county commission meeting is what, the 23rd?
27th.
27th. And so between now, the 13th, and that time, you would be able to get some kind of figure about medical insurance. What I was going to do when I got this is I thought, okay, I'll count up. I know that when I stay in Salem, it's like 103 a night or something, and then I know, I Googled what the mileage is, and so I'm going to want to look over my schedule to see basically what I think is going to be, just for me personally, and to have some kind of target for us to talk about it collaboratively. But I think between now and March 1st, we will have the opportunity to look at this individually, and a goal setting, maybe we can set a little time aside to talk about this and get this moving forward.
And that's what I'm looking for. So I want you guys to be able to establish your goals, and that's what I'm hoping that you will be able to accomplish on March 25th. And then having that idea as to what each of you want to spend in the next fiscal year. So then what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to put numbers into the budget.
I hope you meant February 25th.
Sorry, yes, February. What did I say? March? Okay, yes, definitely not March 25th. By February 25th is your goal-setting session. So then if you are also able to give me an idea of what whether that's collaboratively as a board or individually as a board, you each tell me this is what I want to be able to do, then I'm able to put that into the document. What happens the 6th through the 13th is then I'm meeting with all of the different departments and trying to understand why they're asking for each of the things that they're asking for. And because I've got one department that maybe is asking for an additional FTE, so that's going to be an additional 100,000, 70,000 to their budget, depending on the position. And then I've got some other department that's only asking for, $5,000 more so that they can do some contract work for for some project or something like that, trying to figure out, okay, where are all the asks coming from and how are they going to be paid for? And so then that way, if I have an idea of where you guys, what your starting point is, then I can figure out how to work that into what everybody else is asking
So
as
this
well.
isn't necessarily a done deal March
No.
1st. You
Yes. I
just
just
have a
need-
schedule for yourself.
Yes.
And you would like to have something from us to start the process.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
the way I understand it.
I'm trying to get something in there, so then that way I have a starting point, so that way I can start going through and looking through, okay, this is the estimated amount of revenues that we're anticipating. This is what everybody is asking for. What is the best that we can do with the money that we have? And so I have to have a starting point to be able to start going through that process to figure out what asks can we say yes to and what may have to wait until next year. And so then coming back for the first meeting in March, we would have a better idea of, you know, okay, this is where things are looking at right now. This is where we're talking with all the different departments, what they're looking at. And so then I'm trying to think when our print deadline is, I want to say the beginning of April is when we're finalizing everything, because then we have to start putting things to print the second week in April so that we can have the budget document distributed by April 24th.
So, Madam Chair, we've got another big agenda item. I wonder if we can put off item 11A. Is that 11A? Do I have the right number?
Yeah.
Yeah, if we could, can we put off item 11A? It's 20 minutes till 9. I have an hour's drive after this. And, you know, this is too big and too important. This is one of the two most important things we do. So I really think it's going to be a good idea if we put this off to the next meeting.
What if we put off commissioners' reports and combine that with next meeting?
So
What if we do that?
So we're going to take, I'm sorry, say that again.
What if we defer our commissioners' reports, what we have, and combine them with what we'll have for next?
So, in other words,
and
we
then-
stop now and say we're done? Is that it?
Well-
Can we do that now?
I'm sorry. No, I meant, rather than, because we do want to move ahead with the...
We are not ready to move ahead, I'm telling you. I have a lot of things to say about this. And I don't want to say them tonight. It's late, we're all tired.
On this item?
The county manager recruitment.
Yeah.
That's
Oh.
what Commissioner Thompson is talking about.
That's the budget and the county manager. Those are the two most important jobs we have.
Right,
I
and-
don't think that this is the time to move forward with this because I have concerns about what we have here. And I don't want to get into that discussion tonight.
This is just for the consulting company. That's all this
No,
is for.
let me be clear. What we have used in the past is not adequate in my point of view, but I don't want to get into that discussion now. I really think we need to be done now and put both the commissioners' reports and this item off till the next time.
Oh, I really hate
So
to do
what-
that,
I'm
but
confused. Item 8A, are we doing something? Are we
That's the
moving forward?
discussion only.
So the discussion is, are we
we
going to
did,
be?
8A we did.
Okay.
We're done.
Next item is,
Then normally we'd have
Okay.
commissioners' reports and then the county manager's report, and then we would have discussion on the county manager recruitment.
I think this has been a compact agenda, a lot of information on this. I personally am happy that we have the information about the county manager in this packet so that everybody can review it. I would be comfortable with putting it higher on the agenda at another meeting, but I really want to encourage everyone to be thinking about this and so that we can be concise when we do discuss this.
Yeah.
I don't know how other people feel, but
being concise
Styles
is,
here, she's.
yeah.
Yes.
I won't be here on the 27th.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay.
I have a conference. I won't be here on the 27th.
Can you call in?
Oh,
No.
difficult.
I have a dinner that evening with the CIS representatives, so I won't be able to.
Well, could we have maybe a statement from Kelly tonight?
That would be very helpful just to get this process rolling if you.
Yeah.
And
we
and
need
then,
to get
and delay the
process rolling.
discussion until the following. I think we can make a compromise. I would be comfortable with a compromise on that, to bring Kelly up now, and then we have a discussion following at the next meeting.
Would it be all right with you if we took like a 2-minute break just to stand and stretch so we could think a little better and then continue? Yeah, maybe it would.
So, yeah, but that'd be okay to,
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Motion to defer the commissioner reports until our next meeting.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Okay. So the commissioners' reports will be given next meeting. County Manager, did you have?
I just wanted to say real quick, if you could get the board rule edits that you might have to Teresa, because that meeting is scheduled for February 19th, and that way she can compile all of them. And then if you do have your board goals that you want to send ahead of time, so that way we can compile them all and have them written up ahead of time, that meeting is on the 25th, so if you could send in your goal suggestions, that would be helpful as well. And then the bond sale is February 21st.
What did you just say about the 25th?
The 25th is the board goal-setting session, and so if you have goals that you want to send ahead of time, so that way we can compile them all. Thank you, and I'm going to step out.
Okay, thank you. So now we'll move on to the next item, the county manager recruitment.
Thank you for keeping me on the agenda. I'm sorry, I have some scheduled conflicts, but I've never been to the CIS conference before, so I think it's valuable that I go so I can learn more about our insurance, since that may be something we're looking at putting on the budget. So
You go be the scout.
What's that?
Be the scout for us.
Yes, I will scout things out for you. Really, I'm just here to help facilitate your process. This is your process, and I have experience with city manager recruiting. I have experience with working with recruitment firms. So the packet of information came from a collaboration of working with Commissioner Quila and Commissioner Sullivan of what they felt would be important to present to the entire board, so you have some information to work off to give me direction on next steps of what you would like to see in a recruitment process. So I'm here to answer questions and listen to direction. And also I'd like to say, you have a very, very competent interim county manager here, but she is wearing 3 hats. And to keep county services maintained at a level that we all hope for and we want, and to also support the staff that are trying desperately to keep our departments going and to help her, we need to move this process forward. I'm not saying rush the process, but I recommend strongly that, like it was said, it floats high up on future agendas of where we're going to keep moving to make these decisions. Because Commissioner Thompson is correct, it is the most important, or one of the most important decisions you as a board is going to make. So I'm here to help. So any questions on the information that was in your packet?
I have a question.
Yes.
Are we really dealing with a 2008 job description?
I think, yes. Yes, you are. So if that would be one of the first tasks you'd like to tackle, of revising that job description, that would be a good place to start.
Okay.
I can email you a copy, a Word version of this, and then you can make your edits kind of like you're making your edits to your board rules. You can make your edits and send them back to me, and then I can kind of compile what your proposed changes are, and we can talk about that.
So that is a good first step in the process.
Yes, please.
Ms. Stiles, we also talked on the meeting that we were going to inquire of the department heads what kind of a want list that they may have, they and their staff may have. And so I know you were going to go ask about that. How is that progressing?
Honestly, I haven't started that because I wanted to meet tonight and discuss if there's anything else you would like me to ask of staff, to ask their staff. I was going to put together a questionnaire, so I wanted to make sure I captured everything the board wanted me to ask.
Well, I know there's different procedures to do this, but I'm comfortable with relying on their professionalism to kind of make up their list, their want list, without us. I don't know if we necessarily have to give them a questionnaire. Okay. I think I could be wrong. Maybe some of them will come to you and say, Kelly, help me, I don't know how to do this. But I would imagine in terms of their daily work life, they know what works best for them and what doesn't. And I would be interested in their feedback on that.
I can get that for you.
I have an issue as well. We've talked, sometimes we've had a 360 evaluation of our county manager. I think that's a great idea. I'd like to have us ask our community partners, Commissioner Spence, Councilor Montero. We've got a lot of really interested community partners who are committed to the success and growth and improvement of our organization. So I'd like to have them consulted as well. I mean, looking inside and looking outside.
Do you want to provide me a list of the people you would like me to contact?
Is this in part of the scope or determining the job description?
Yeah,
or is it...
yeah. When we're looking at what our county manager needs to be, that our county manager is a significant community partner. And so what I would say is staff should have that in the files. I don't have files for that.
Excuse me, I should say, use what we did for the 360, the same community partners as the 360.
Let's try that.
Pardon?
Do we have
Yeah,
that?
you have
we
that.
do. Okay. Then I'll work.
I do.
Okay, I'll work with Heather then. Thank you.
Good. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Is that enough?
But I like this idea of sort of looking inward and looking outward. We might want to keep in mind that when we do the evaluations for our new county manager, that we include both those insiders and the outside partners in that evaluation process. So it might just be something to keep in your mind.
You bet.
I think we've always talked about that, and that's been part of the process before, is that there's been community panels, staff panels, commission panels, and so those.
And I think any recruitment firm that you choose to go with will be on board with that. And I can certainly work with the project coordinator and share those wishes. I mean, that coordinator will meet with you too as a board, but I'll be working hand in hand with whoever it is that you choose. So definitely, there is a lot of value. When I was assisting for the city manager in Unalaska, there were 3 panels, and there was a community panel that gave a lot of valuable input. So I definitely support that option.
And you also talked about having a luncheon with the staff where they could freely discuss amongst themselves and people that are involved with this. But what is it that they want?
Separate from a public reception. I think there is a tremendous amount of value to that.
Yes, I agree.
And may I suggest to provide food?
Always.
Highly recommended.
And I have a kind of a question. We've all seen, as part of your presentation, the list of former staff of. It seems to me that we've got a problem. If we can only keep a county manager for 2 or 3 years, and in fact, when I was sort of advising Monica on the bond rating, in my experience, bond rating companies look askance at staff turnover.
That's right.
And I wonder, is there a way for us to figure out why? Is there, I don't
No
know.
exit interviews ever done that I know of. Suggested last time, it didn't happen.
Wow. Wow.
Saying.
Okay, so we
Well,
don't
that
have.
might be something that we can write into the next procedure too, so.
I think
Sure. Sure. Also with exit interviews, you can have an exit interview, but you may not get a response from the outgoing person.
Right.
They don't have to do it. They can be strongly encouraged, but you may just get, no, it was fine here. No, I decided to move on. That, in my experience, I've seen a lot of exit interviews go that way.
And,
Well, would it, I'm sorry.
frankly, I know this isn't pleasant to hear, but this is fact. Exclusive of the interim manager, I forget his name, Rich Mays. Both our last county managers left because of difficulties with commissioners.
Okay, then that's something we need to take a look
That's
at.
what they said. So,
Okay, we need to.
And I
take a
think
look.
that's important to remember when you look at the job description, that the county manager works for the board, but also the day-to-day responsibilities is managing the 200-odd staff members. So essentially, they have two roles, which is reporting back to you as essentially you're their boss, but then holding their own staff, all 200 of us, accountable. So that's, and also being out in the public and also making sure the community, they're assessing their concerns and working with you. It's a big, big job. And burnout can be high in those types of jobs. And in my experience, 3 to 6 years for a high-level city or county manager is average. 6 years is good. 12 years is awesome and unheard of in most places. But if you can shoot for a 6-year retention, I think you're in good shape.
Well, that would be twice our average, so that's.
Exactly.
I just wonder if there isn't some way to research, I mean, what would happen if the recruitment person who we hire perhaps interviewed a few of those people?
Well, I think there's also other home rule counties that have administrators. Some do and some don't. And it would be interesting to know what their experience has been. And is there wording difference in the charter itself, or is it different expectation for their administrators? Just even in the wording, is it a county administrator, or is it a county manager? That language means a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we can look at too as we look at our expectations for the next person.
And CIS folk may have a good insight into a lot of this as well.
Yeah, I think CIS and AOC both.
So you have your work cut out for you at your conference.
Yeah.
I do. Let alone all the other workshops that I have to go to and learn all sorts of great things like FMLA and all that good stuff that we do in HR. Those are all great ideas, and I think one of the things you might want to do when you hire the recruiter is actually have them not interview each one of you, but really engage in a conversation with each one of you about what your concerns are, what your desires are. Like, talk to them exactly about what you're talking to me about. Why is the turnover so high? What can we be doing better? What should we be looking for in a candidate that maybe we weren't looking for before? It's an art. Recruiting is really an art. You can have the best application, the best resume, the best interview questions, but it's really just boiling it down to, is that person going to fit what it is that you want within the job description and within the culture that you want them to be hired into? So you need to really think about the culture of Clatsop County and how you want your representative to represent the county, and that's going to get you a long way, in my opinion. So does that make sense?
that's a very good suggestion.
The only issue is that there are strong divisions within the cultures, which is why the mediation is so important, that we're planning on moving forward and doing. And my hope is that mediation helps us bridge our differences, because I think that'll be the key factor in recruitment and retention.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping that I could get, with your recommendation, an RFP on the street by the middle of March, if possible. And what that will do will at least get firms attracted and giving us information. And that really is a small piece in this whole process. So if we can get the advertisement out there that, hey, we need a county manager and we want you to recruit our county manager, and get them in here and presenting to you, then I think we can dig a little bit deeper into really what it is that you want.
Yep.
in a
I think we
county
have an
manager.
opportunity to shape this as the process goes forward. All we were charged with was to try to identify some recruiting firms, and
Yeah.
you were able to do that. You had about 4 or 5 of them that you found, and some of them have some local history. One was involved with the Cannon
Beach.
Cannon Beach. One has a close affiliation with League of Oregon Cities. Prothman is their preferred recruiter. So I think there's some advantages to some of the ones that you've identified, and really that's all we were asked to do, is just to kind of work with you and try to find a few firms that might be the ones we want to work with. All these other issues we can be working with the recruiter eventually on.
And when are you going on when are you going to be out of town?
The 27th through the 1st.
So, I mean, like if the department heads, if they've already been thinking about this and want to hand it in, what's the process? Are they just going to give it to Teresa and she's going to email it out to us? Or what will be the process so we can continue to, because if you want to get mid-March, I don't want to wait until the next formal meeting.
So
I would
there's
like to be getting input now to be thinking about it.
There's actually a management team meeting where all the directors will be at the meeting tomorrow morning, and I can present this request to them and give them a deadline, and they can email their thoughts to me, and then I can forward that, and Teresa can compile it and send it to you.
I guess I'm just saying is how formal does it have to be? Can they just email, copy you and do it at the same time so it does it have to filter through you? I don't know what the process is. Is it better that way? Okay.
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 Yeah, we can do that. And I mean, it doesn't have to be structured. It can just be, I want this in a county manager, and then there you go. And
Right.
so,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I can introduce that tomorrow.
Okay, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Tomorrow is Thursday. I can give them a deadline to Monday's a holiday of the following Wednesday.
Sure,
Would
that would be-
work?
yeah.
Okay, or just give them a full week the following Thursday?
That would be fine with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
But with regards to selecting a recruiting firm, did you have any recommendations or suggestions from what we were able to kind of put together there, or is there?
Honestly, I think your best bet is to go out for an RFP
Okay.
and see who responds, because that means they are truly interested in doing the work.
Okay.
I can make recommendations all day long, but it's the firms that are going to respond that are really going to give you what you want.
Okay, great.
So to speak. So if I understand, I'll get this request to the directors of what they'd like to see in a county manager. I'll email you all.
And that can include advice and warnings.
Yes, I'd love to hear.
Cautionary notes.
Cautionary notes, yeah.
What you want, what you don't want, what you
Now's their
want.
chance, baby.
Okay. I'll just open-ended, free for all.
That's right.
And then I will email you a Word version of the county manager job description, correct? And then that's going to be important for me when I'm creating the RFP, to have a finalized county manager job description. So if I get that to you tomorrow, what kind of deadline can you put on yourself to get me those changes back? Can I give you a week? Can that get back to me in a week? Is that feasible?
That seems fair.
That seems fair? Okay.
Fair for the staff is fair for the ganders,
All right.
or something like that.
I hope that you could really emphasize with the staff how much we want to listen to them.
Okay.
And to our community partners.
Yeah.
Some of them
And
have
the
feeling pretty
360,
burned
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just put, tell us everything.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the difficult things about filling this kind of a position is that we have we're hiring somebody to manage 200 people. And So their management skills are really important. But we also have our own agenda. So please emphasize with the staff how much we value their advice.
Yeah, they'll appreciate that. I've already been approached by certain members of staff who are truly concerned if they will be asked for input because of the turnover that we're all seeing. They want to have a say, which
And their insights
it's very important.
are, you know, I mean, the qualitative nature of their comments emphasize how much we value that.
Because it can also be a wish, like, gosh, I wish that you had this or that. That may be helpful too.
I'm confused. So are we talking about input on the recruiting firm, or are we talking about the job description?
On the job description, or just the wish list, so that when I put the RFP together, I can say, the county is looking to recruit somebody who has these qualities or something like that. In the scope of work.
That's a fair question. We were kind of going far afield on
We are
that.
going in a couple different directions.
So,
That was all we came
yeah,
to talk about.
Yeah, you're right, Mark.
Okay.
I mean, Commissioner Quila.
So it's two different things.
Okay.
So they will have their deadline to get me, you know, their wish list, and then you'll get me your changes. If you're word savvy and can use the track changes on the Word document, that helps me because I'll know what is existing and what is new. If not,
And then the RFPs, you were talking about an RFP in mid-March. That's for the recruiting firm?
that's for the recruiting firm.
Okay.
Yes.
I got it.
No, it's a lot. There's a
No,
lot.
I'm pleased. I thought you were going to ask for an RFP and to go out in 2 weeks, so.
And may I suggest another task?
You can.
That you and Teresa look at this discussion, and if you can make it reflect kind of what we're talking about, because you may have insights as you look over the notes, oh, I wish we had said something, and then we can have something that we can work off of from this initial discussion, you know what I'm saying?
Okay, so you want kind of a summary of what we're
Yeah.
talking about given back to you.
Yeah, so as you look at over what we looked at and say, oh, you know, these points, and, because you have more experience in this, and.
Along with the Word document.
Correct.
Both of those together.
Both of those together? Yes.
That will guide our process as we work.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Good.
Thank you.
Good thing we sit right next to each other.
So Commissioner Quila and Commissioner Sullivan, in the meeting that you had, who did you meet with?
We met with Kelly.
Uh-huh.
And identified some recruiting firms, or talked about possible potential recruiting firms, and thought we would bring it back to the commission to talk about the recruiting firms. And that's what I was.
RFP is a far better way to go. I mean, that was a bad idea.
Well, plus
Well,
the
no,
fact it's
I thought that would be part of it too, so.
the legal way to go.
And also, as a result of that meeting, is why we have the packet that we have in front of us.
Right.
And the discussion that we had with Ms. Stiles is, so, I mean, this is the result of that meeting, and now we'll go forward with what's next.
Right.
Yep, now we can kind of break it out in chunks of what to do next, so. Got it.
Got it.
And after I send out the job description and the summary of the notes, if I've missed anything, please let me know, because I need to be kept on track too. Because again, this is your process, and if I'm missing something, just point me in the right direction.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay.
Great. Meeting adjourned.
Everybody have a safe